sir. So I'm going to ask the Minister, I've been contacted by a number of residents who have said that at times it's been gridlock around that area, particularly when there are school clubs. Is the Minister, was the Minister aware that this might happen in any of the contingency plans or the planning for traffic that were made before the move from Fort Regent?
Yes, sir, I think there are always going to be concerns in that regard, and to that end I took a visit to the gym myself yesterday evening, and I spoke to a number of people in the gym about a number of things. I think we need to wait a little while longer and see how things pan out, sir.
Well, Connie Tarbison-Tellier.
Thank you, sir. Is the Minister aware of an agreement made some years ago by the then Minister responsible for Fort Regent, former Deputy Pat Ryan, that no loss of green space should be suffered at Springfield as a result of increasing car parking? I'm slightly concerned by while we know that more parking is needed, I'm slightly concerned to be reassured that there hasn't been any loss in children's play space or green amenity space as a result of the increase in parking. Thank you, sir.
So, as I understand it, the parish put in an objection to the plans to relocate the children's car park, and as such the green space has been preserved, and I can confirm that there are no plans at the moment to change that, so hopefully that's reassuring.
Supplementary, please, sir.
Yes.
On a recent visit to Springfield, it was pointed out to me that the front area in front of the entrance has been largely given over to cycle parking. And while, of course, that's a good thing, there were concerns raised to me by members involved in the running of Springfield that this space in front of Springfield could be put to better use than parking of any vehicles, and furthermore that there were issues about the potential for young people to run out of Springfield Stadium into a very busy road. And I wonder whether the Minister would be willing to meet with me and perhaps Deputy Ward to discuss how this part of Springfield could be enhanced and made secure. Thank you, sir.
So very happy to do that. Thank you.
Well, Deputy Mezek.
Thank you, sir. Does the Minister recognise the validity of the concerns that have been raised by residents in the area about the level of traffic that's been that they've experienced in the recent days since the opening of the facilities at Springfield? And if he does recognise the validity of those concerns, what options does he believe he has to try to alleviate that?
So I most certainly recognise the validity of those concerned. It would be stupid not to. Yes, as I've said, these are early days. I think there were an awful lot of people that attended in the first couple of days just to see what the facility looked like. I do think we need to wait a little while longer to see how things pan out, and we are and will be continuing to monitor the situation. So I'm very happy, as I said before, to turn up on site and to invite those concerned to meet with the traffic department as well.
I have Deputy Southern, Deputy Feltham, and then final supplementary. I'm afraid there's no time for an additional question. Yes, Deputy Southern.
Thank you, sir. Does the Minister recognise the words of one of his colleagues who said that users of Springfield will get used to the absence of parking? What way would they get used to the absence of parking apart from by not turning up, does he think?
I'm in danger of repeating myself, sir. We're going to monitor the situation and see what we can do going forward. It has to be said it's not an ideal situation because at Fort Regent the gym was enormous and there were a multitude of car parking spaces, but as the Deputy will know, Fort Regent is in a mess. It's full of asbestos and it's all inappropriate. We had to do something, and this is what's been done.
Supplemental, Deputy Southern. Deputy Feltham.
Thank you, sir. Could the Minister confirm that part of monitoring the situation will include the monitoring of air quality around the area?
That hasn't been suggested by anybody. I'm not really sure how valid that is in relation to the attendance at a gym. I think we've got 10 gyms, some of them of a similar size in town, and I'm not sure that that's really a profitable exercise. So,
Supplemental, Deputy Feltham.
Yes, the Minister mentioned that he had visited the gym. Could he confirm if he spoke to just gym goers or did he speak to my constituents in St Helier Central?
I went to the gym, sir, to speak to the managers of the gym and the people attending the gym. I didn't have a great deal of time. It was on my way home later yesterday afternoon. So the answer to that question, as far as...
Final supplementary, Deputy Ward.
Thank you, sir. It's a shame the Minister didn't drop into our drop-in session that we run every Monday at Springfield Cafe on a Monday. But he's always welcome, sir. Can I ask the Minister, so today I intend to lodge a proposition, if it's not already been lodged, to enable active card users to use the hopper bus, I'm trying to remember the word, sir, for free for a set time to try and alleviate some of the traffic issues and try and encourage some out of their cars. Will the Minister be supporting that proposition?
I'll tackle the first thing first, sir. I have requested a visit to Reform on a Monday afternoon, and I'm not sure, but I think there's a slot for me later in the summer. But we have discussed it, so it's not something that's escaped me. And now I've forgotten the second part of the question.
So it's will he be
Hopper bus,
supporting?
Yeah, very happy to consider that.
Very well. We come now to question 2 that Deputy Alves will ask the Minister for Infrastructure. Deputy.
Thank you, sir. Will the Minister advise what planning and assessments were undertaken and what data was collected prior to the closing and relocation of the sports clubs who used Fort Regent and the gym there to ensure there was sufficient space and the same quality, quantity and variety of equipment at Springfield Stadium or other facilities and that the same number of users could be accommodated? Thank you, sir.
Minister.
So I'm really sorry. I thought the questions had ended and I just started having a conversation. So
No, this is the next question. This is question 2. It's also addressed to you, Minister.
Sorry. Yes, if I could ask the Assistant Minister for Infrastructure, Deputy Stevenson, take that because she's specialising in health. And apologies for not paying attention. Sorry.
Very well. Deputy.
Thank you, sir, and thank you for the question. The decant of sports clubs from Fort Regent has been an ongoing project for more than 18 months. The previous government made a commitment to find alternative venues for all those at Fort Regent, and conversations and dialogue have been continuous throughout the process with all those involved. The most significant piece of work underpinning that decision was the 2018 Sports Facilities Delivery Strategy undertaken by KKP. This then led to further work which developed into the Inspiring Active Places strategy. Both of those documents are publicly available and I'd be only too happy to circulate them to members. Studies undertaken prior to the design and build of the new Springfield gym determined that the Fort Regent gym operated with a high level of overcapacity. This new facility at Springfield was designed to cater for existing members and provide further capacity. The variety of equipment at the new Springfield gym facility has been chosen to cater for a variety of needs. It's some of the best equipment available on the market. An amount of cardiovascular equipment has been moved from Fort Regent to Springfield as it was relatively new and in good condition.
Supplemental question, Deputy Alves?
Yes, thank you, sir. I'm sure the Assistant Minister is aware that there's been quite a lot of feedback regarding the restriction of space within the gym, and a lot of this has been quite negative. Can the Minister advise whether she will be taking on board the comments that are currently being published in various places, including Facebook, and if so, how can people reach out directly to the department to ensure that this feedback is taken on board? Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, absolutely. The sports facilities team and I continue to monitor, absorb and reflect on all the feedback being received. I am very actively monitoring that personally as part of that process. I would encourage anybody who does have questions or concerns to reach out to the staff on site. They're also very, very welcome to contact me directly. My details are online.
Deputy Rob Ward.
Thank you, sir. May I ask the Minister, some of the concerns, the specific concerns that have been raised with myself is the particularly space for those who use free weights. who are saying there is simply not enough space to exercise appropriately. And the concern is that these people may well leave the active card system and go elsewhere. Is the Minister concerned about people leaving and not using the active card facilities themselves?
Thank you, sir. I think the reality here is that the gym has moved from a very, very large space at Fort Regent. The KKP report that I referenced earlier actually concluded that it was significantly over capacity. So I appreciate that that change is always going to be difficult moving into a smaller, right-sized environment for the kind of market we're looking at here. Once again, you know, we do monitor and take on board that feedback. And naturally, with any kind of move like this, there is always going to be a need to make small adjustments along the way. There will be some snagging as well that is needed. So very much, you know, aware of concerns and would encourage people to raise those and keep communicating well on how they're being affected.
Supplemental, Deputy.
Thank you, sir. Yes, it actually changed in the middle of the answer. The Minister mentioned the word market, and is there not a concern that effectively other gyms, private gyms, will provide a better facility, and therefore, because of this market that seems to have been set up with an inadequate facility for some, they will simply move to private gyms, and this, we could be seeing the end of a very, very successful system of active card, etc.?
It is absolutely not the intention here to see the end of the active offering whatsoever. This is about providing the right kind of sports and active facilities that can be sustainable and fit for the future in the correct kind of environment. The evidence has been very clear that Fort Regent was not providing that environment. So I appreciate that there are questions about if some people may choose to leave their membership. Obviously, they are private decisions. There has been a huge increase in the number of private gyms in Jersey in recent years, and also the price points on some of those gyms have started to reduce. But currently, Active offers a very good price point for islanders, and I don't see that going anywhere at all.
Deputy Benet, you wouldn't normally be in a position to intervene at this stage, having
that's
allowed
fine. Sorry.
the.
I had something to say that may have helped.
And I'm afraid there's only one person can answer the question at a time. Very well. Deputy Catherine Curtis.
Thank you, sir. Would the Deputy consider moving some of the activities, such as for the heavyweight trainers, to another facility? This would leave more space at Springfield for exercise referral users and general fitness trainers.
I would be interested if the Deputy has any suggestions about where those weights should go to. I would also recognise that some people choose to use cardiovascular equipment and weights as well in the same workout. So I'm not sure, and I've seen no evidence to suggest that that would be the right way forward. What I will say is that there are ongoing discussions about how we may be able to open up other active facilities in future, perhaps out on smaller scales that maybe already exist out in the community. And now that the move from Fort Regent has happened, it may enable us to start looking at how we bring online those facilities for the public as well.
Supplemental question. I have Deputy Taddy, Deputy Felton, then final supplementary. Deputy Taddy.
Would the Assistant Minister confirm that there are no plans and whether there have been any discussions about privatising the active card offering? And would she also state what her stance is on the privatisation of the currently publicly owned active scheme?
Thank you, sir. I've had no discussions about the privatisation of the active scheme. I have no real views on it currently. As I say, Active offers a very good offering to islanders at a very good price point, and I believe they're doing a very good job with that.
Supplemental, Deputy Taddy.
I won't.
Deputy Felton.
Thank you, sir. Given the Assistant Minister's answers to previous questions, is she admitting that there are groups of people that are less well served by the new facilities? And if so, who are those groups of people?
I'm not quite sure what the Deputy means there in reference to my previous questions. The only thing I can think is that the suggestion that some people may choose not to go to Springfield now that it has moved. But I think, as the Minister said earlier, we are very much in the early days of this gym. I think it's been open for 8 days now. Let's give it some time, see where we get to. The Minister and I will be paying close attention to how things settle down and bed in, and we can move on from there.
Supplemental, Deputy Felton.
Thank you, sir. Is the Assistant Minister aware of any cancellations to Active Card members due to the change in facilities?
I have asked for an update on usage figures and exactly that question, and in the next couple of weeks I will be supplied with them once again once we've had a chance for the situation to bed in and settle down.
Final supplementary, Deputy Alves.
Thank you, sir. The Minister mentioned in one of her answers that there'd been consultations over 18 months regarding the clubs that were being moved and alternative venues had been looked at. We recently had a couple of those club owners come into our constituency drop-in session, and they had concerns regarding the space that they were being given, which I believe was meant to be at Oakfield, and the terms of the contract that they currently have in place being cancelled. Can the Minister give some reassurance that these clubs will be given like-for-like contracts, or at the very least the exact same facilities and space that they were given up at Fort Regent to enable them to carry on operating in the way that they have done for so many years? Thank you, sir.
Thank the Deputy for her question. The project at Springfield has been going on for 18 months. The engagement with those clubs and organisation has been going on significantly longer, and I will, the previous government made decisions on that basis. I have also personally met with the clubs that remain at Fort Regent, which I believe the Deputy is referring to, more than once, and continue to engage with them. Officers have as well, and their needs and requirement for space and timetabling have very much been taken into account.
Very well, coming now to question 3, the Deputy Hull will ask of the Minister for the Environment. Deputy.
Thank you, sir. Will the Minister advise whether he has given any consideration to reinstating dedicated planning department offices with all personnel working together in one place, and if not, why not? Thank you, sir.
Minister.
So, yes, I thank the Deputy for her question. In fact, for the last 3 years, all planning officers have worked together in one place, the officers 28 to the 30, the parade. The problem with that building being that it has no front of office, there's no reception, no ability for the public to engage with officers. As a result of the McKinnon Review, which members will know was published a couple of weeks ago, I undertook to reinstate a public-facing planning officer function at CLS in Lamott Street, and that should be happening very, very soon, within a matter of a week or two. So there will be that front of office function, which I think is what the public have missed. And of course, when the government moves into the new building in the summer of next year, at least that's when it's scheduled, all planning officers will be in one place, and there will be, in that one building, also the ability to meet with the public.
Supplemental question?
Yes, thank you, sir. I appreciate the fact that Lamott Street's going to be have someone there. I'm going to ask the Minister if he feels that the service to islanders is not as good as we used to have when everyone was together at South Hill, when we could ask, it wasn't just a support officer at Lamott Street, it was all of the officers together. Thank you, sir.
So there's really two parts to that. I'd reiterate all planning officers are together. The problem is that they can't be accessed easily in that building. When we reinstate the officer function at Lamott Street, it will be with planning officers. It will not be with junior staff. So the quality of advice will be good. I'm told that in the past, Lamott Street was, planning officers were subject to questions such as where's the nearest public toilet. So it's not, you know, there were reasons why it was considered to be not an efficient use of officer time. But I do recognise that that inability to meet with planning officers is a significant issue, and that's why we've taken action on it. And I think that is a key part of the delivery going forward. The McKinnon report recognised that customer service in general in planning has not been good enough over the last few years. And my action plan, and indeed the detailed implementation plan which I develop, will be intending to address that very, very thoroughly.
James.
Thank you, sir. Can the Minister confirm how many planning officers are working overseas, and what impact does this have on the delivery of services? Thank you, sir.
So I don't have that figure to hand, but I think it has been the subject of written questions in the past. It is in any case a figure that fluctuates. It's not a high number. There is a tension here, isn't there? We want to clear backlogs in the planning system, and we are unable to recruit into all the posts that we need in the short term. So we use officers from the UK. I think from memory it's 2 at the moment, but you know it's not a large number, 1 or 2, to help clear those backlogs. I think that's an appropriate and proportionate response to the problems we have. But the long-term solution is unquestionably to fill the posts that we have. And that programme of recruitment, I'm pleased to say, is going pretty well. We are beginning to fill key posts that have been empty for quite a while.
Supplemental question?
Thank you, sir. Can the Minister confirm how many vacancies there are currently in the planning department?
Once again, no, I can't confirm that exact figure off the top of my head. Again, I think it has been the subject of written questions. I'm very happy to contact the Deputy and indeed to circulate to members the current figure. It's a moving target, and as I say, the most important thing from my point of view is that it's coming down. And we are filling into key vacancies. Just for example, we're about to take up in June, a person will take up a role in June of head of the regulation and validation part of the planning function, which was identified in particular by the McKinnon report as the area of most concern. So, you know, we are beginning to address it with a very determined plan of recruitment, and also, by the way, running a scheme where we take people, junior planners on from school and from college, and nurture them through the system to become trained planners in Jersey.
Deputy Felton.
Thank you, sir. Given the current closure of Lamott Street and the lack of parking around Philip Lefevre House, does the Minister consider that that is the best place to have open public access to planning officers?
So I think the reality is it's the best place because it's the place that's available. There are very rarely perfect answers, but it is well known to the public that that is the public-facing part of the government, and I think certainly the feedback we had was, why can't you have Lamott Street? So why can't we have Lamott Street back? So I think it's the best that we've got, but it's also worth remembering it is a temporary solution. We are aware that it's not ideal, and in a year's time, just over a year's time, hopefully we will be in a shiny new office where we have the ability to meet with the public from the officers will have the ability to meet with the public without having to go to a separate building.
Supplemental, Deputy.
Thank you, sir. Will the Minister undertake to take feedback from visitors to the Planning Department at Lamott Street and seek to improve access if indeed that is required?
So one of the recommendations in the McKinnon report was to have a system of feedback, not just for people coming to meet planners, but more generally from all stakeholders. That is something I committed to in the action plan, and we'll work out how the best way of achieving that. But customer feedback is a fundamental part of improving the service. And one of the things I would say is that one of the encouraging things that came out of the McKinnon report was the determination on the part of staff to improve the service. Staff are aware that they are not delivering the service that islanders deserve. And I think one of the good things we have now is a roadmap to how to improve things and a commitment within the team to do that. And feedback is most definitely a part of that.
I have Deputy Scott, the Conotop St Lawrence, and then final supplementary. Deputy Scott.
Thank you, sir. Would the Minister agree that the availability of planning officers is quite crucial to the service to the public? And on this note, will the list of phone numbers for planning officers that used to be available on the government website be reinstated so that the public can actually contact them by telephone?
So I agree that the ability to talk to planning officers is crucial, and it was certainly one of the key things that the McKinnon report highlighted, that the ability to, particularly in advance of applications going in, so that pre-application advice can be provided, it is very important, and I've committed to improve that. I will look at the question of whether or not phone numbers can be provided, and report back to the Deputy on that.
Supplemental, Deputy Scott.
No, thank you, sir.
Conotop St Lawrence.
Thank you, sir. If, as the Minister says, it will be a year before the public are able to access the planning officers themselves within the new government building, my view is it's absolutely crucial that, particularly for major developments, it is the planning officer themselves who should be able to answer the public's questions. And I don't believe that the people based at CLS will actually be able to answer any in-depth questions. Does the Minister agree? And if so, how will he mitigate this? Will the public be able to be referred to the officer who is dealing directly with the application, as used to happen at South Hill when there was a reception there? Thank you, sir.
So the intention is that a planning officer, not a CLS member of CLS staff, will be based at South Hill. So it will be a... Sorry, at Lamott Street, I beg your pardon. Will be based at Lamott Street, and so therefore I believe that will help mitigate the issue. But what will have to happen is if that planning officer is not directly responsible for the issue which the member of the public or the developer brings to the table, so to speak, then they will need to be referred to make an appointment with the relevant officer, because that is the only way that they will be able to deal with that level of detail in the advice.
Supplemental question, Conotop.
Yes, sir, thank you. I'd like to go back to Deputy Scott's question, because in days gone by, it was far easier to contact the planning officers because we had direct numbers for them. And I do believe that the Minister should not be taking time to think whether that should be available again, but it should be available. So will he please answer now whether he agrees that planning officers should be immediately accessible to the public by giving their contact details? Far too many departments now, we're not able to contact the officers dealing with matters that we need to speak to them about, and that includes states members as well as the public.
So my only reservation around that is that I do not know the reasons why that practice was stopped. I do not know whether it is the case that every planning officer has a unique phone number in the office, and whether there were specific reasons why that practice was stopped. As I said, I'm very happy to look into it, and assuming there is no fundamental reason why that shouldn't be the case, since the whole commitment of them and my commitment in response to the McKinnon report was to improve customer service, I will do everything I can to make sure that happens.
Final supplementary, Deputy Hull.
Thank the Minister for looking into all these issues, but I think I just would like him to reiterate that he wishes the public to be able to contact officers within the planning department and receive advice in a timely fashion. Thank you, sir.
very happy to reiterate that point, sir, which I think I've made in multiple forms during the course of the answers to these questions. Thank you.
Now we come to question 4. The Deputy Andrews will ask the Minister for Treasury and Resources. Deputy.
Thank you, sir. Will the Minister advise how much high-value residents contributed in personal income tax in 2022 for over 1% rate applied above the income threshold, and how this figure compares with the 4 previous years? Thank you, sir.
Minister.
Thank you, sir. Data is not yet available for the 2022 year of assessment, as the deadlines for making tax returns for that year has not yet passed.
Supplemental question.
Thank you, sir. Can the Minister provide quantitative data to ensure there is a breakdown of the amount of high net worth individuals who have actually paid above the income threshold at a later date? Thank you, sir.
Minister.
So I've answered written questions in regard to previous years, and I give a commitment to, once that data is available, to put it into the public domain as the Deputy has requested. So.
Deputy Tadier.
Would the Minister either now or by circulating the information also state how the tax yield from the 21Es compares with what one might call locally grown millionaires and multimillionaires?
Minister.
There comes a point where, if the Deputy wishes to constrain his request so that it is answerable, then I am more than happy to provide that information. But simply saying millionaires and multimillionaires in relation to tax liability is not something which I could answer in the way that I think the Deputy wishes.
So if I could elucidate in that case for the Minister, he may accept, sir, that there is a fundamental unfairness at the heart of the 21E scheme in the sense it gives a preferential rate of tax to a certain group of super wealthy that locally grown super wealthy people do not get, so they are taxed at 20%, as the Treasury Minister knows. And it would be useful to have, as far as possible, a like-for-like comparison between those two groups. So would he seek to provide information which he thinks is comparable and helpful to the Assembly so that we can examine the scheme in further detail?
So we're making progress on a question which might be answerable. I will go away and communicate directly with the Deputy, because simply saying someone is a millionaire or a multimillionaire, that can be in assets or income, and therefore I think what the Deputy is asking, but I will need to just confirm with him in writing, is around income rather than assets. But I think so, rather than having this continual getting to a point to a question that can be answered, that might be more useful.
There's already been a second supplementary for the Deputy, so we're not going any further with this particular point. And that's Deputy Sutton.
Thank you, sir. Does the Minister have an estimate of the figure required or asked for by Deputy Andrews? Does he have a current estimate of what that figure is?
No, I don't, sir. As the Deputy will know, markets during 2022 were volatile. He will know from reading previous written responses that that element of tax from 21Es is also notoriously volatile because it's related to market conditions.
So,
does the Minister accept that operating without an effective estimate of this figure is doing things blind?
No, I don't accept that at all, sir, because it's connected with how profitable those individuals on their worldwide income might have been in any given year.
well, I have the Connotab St Mary, Deputy Mezek, and then final supplementary.
Sir Mary's Defo and Deputy Farnham, please.
Yes, the defo is raised on Deputy Farnham. Conor St Mary.
Thank you, sir. My recollection is that I raised a similar question of the Treasury Minister in the last Assembly, and her reply was to the effect that the 1% take was in fact relatively small. If current figures confirm that situation at the present time, would the Minister consider abolishing this particular strand on the basis it appears to be no inducement to 1-1-E's, and on the basis that the current situation does create an element of divisiveness in the community?
Minister?
So as the Conitard knows, the Chief Minister and what we call HAWAG have just undertaken a review. I've lodged the result of that review in regard to legislation that needs changing. At this time, that does not propose removing the 1% rate. It is important when we come to discuss those regulations in due course, that we, in light of those changes, should the Assembly accept them, that we give certainty to that particular cohort of either individuals or introducers, which is important as well, and I therefore wouldn't be proposing to make further changes out with what I've lodged before the Assembly currently.
Thank you. Deputy Massey.
Thank you, sir. Is the Minister able to confirm, I guess not for last year, but for the previous 4 years, how many or what proportion of 2-1-E residents in fact paid nothing that fell into the 1% rate?
Are you able to answer that? It's stretching a little bit outside the time range posited by the question.
Well, so it's slightly misunderstanding, because if they fell into the 1% rate, then they would have paid something. I think the Deputy is asking me a different question, which is how many 2-1-E's didn't pay anything over the rate. I don't have that number in front of me, but it is available to the Department and I can provide it to the Deputy.
Thank you. I would look forward to seeing that number. You'd hope that it would be zero, but I guess it's probably not. Following on from the aspect of the question by the Councillor of St Mary who referred to the divisiveness of this scheme, does the Minister consider that it sends out a good message to the people of Jersey that for a part of our community it seems that paying full rates of tax is optional?
So, I think, Deputy, I mean, the original question was targeted precisely at specific contributions made for a year, which the Minister said he didn't have the information available. I've allowed a fair amount of flexibility, but I think that kind of policy statement or political statement is out with the ambit of the question, in my view.
So could I suggest, I don't mean to challenge this ruling and to seek to change it, but I think there's clearly a spirit behind this question from the questioner, which is seeking to get facts to establish a policy principle, which is probably to do with the unfairness and what the rate of tax should be if it isn't the current one, sir. So I think it's probably a reasonable concluding supplementary.
Well, thank you, and I note you haven't sought a challenge. In my view, we are just beginning to stretch too far the boundaries of the question. It's always open to members to ask a further question, and of course there are questions without notice, although not to this Minister, but to other ministers who can consider the matter if appropriate. Final supplementary, Deputy Andrews. Very well, we come to question 6. The Deputy Southern will ask the Minister for Social Security. Deputy.
I hope it's question 5, sir.
Oh, you're quite right, it's question 5. I can't read my own writing, I apologise.
Taking into account the evidence provided in the Annex A of the Employment Forum's report on the operation and regulation of zero-hours contracts in Jersey, evidence of poor practice, abuse and absence of employee protections, will the Minister commit to act on the 7 issues regarding zero-hours contracts contained in the proposition P32 of 2021 that was adopted unanimously by the Assembly? Thank you.
Minister.
Thank you, sir. I refer the Deputy to the answer to written question 216 of 2023 which covers the same topic. The Employment Forum made a careful and detailed examination of each of the elements set out in Proposition P32/2021, for which I'm grateful. I'm considering their report and recommendations and will provide my full response shortly. Thank you.
Supplemental question, Deputy Sutton.
By way of example, in the simplest form, employers continue to be in breach of the provisions of the employment law by failing to provide a statement of terms and conditions and pay slips to their employees. And this is the evidence in Annex A, and it doesn't say some, it says, by way of example, employers continue to use these practices which aren't fair. Will the Minister say whether she supports engagement and action on this particular front?
Minister.
Thank you, sir. As I have said, I will be producing a response shortly. That particular issue that the Deputy refers to is not isolated, I believe, to 0 hours contracts, and it is something that will be caught up in our response to both the 0 hour report and various other issues that have been brought to my attention recently. Thank you.
Deputy Mezek. No. Deputy Ward.
Thanks, sir. One of the recommendations from the Employment Forum is that an amendment should be made to the Employment Jersey Law 2003 to give employees the right to request an updated written statement of their terms of employment where their existing statement does not reflect the reality of their working pattern. Will the Minister be bringing forward this amendment? Thank you, sir.
Yes, I expect so. Thank you.
Supplemental, Deputy Ward.
Thanks. Yes. Is that a yes, sir? And also, what would be the time frame for that? Thank you, sir.
I don't have a time frame as yet, sir. There may be other amendments we wish to bring forward at the same time, which will require consideration.
Deputy Felton.
Thank you, sir. The question states that P32/2021 was adopted unanimously by the Assembly. So can the Minister give her assurance that the spirit of that proposition will be followed through by her government?
So I think the content of the report, the Employment Forum have given very clear recommendations, and those will drive our response to the report. Thank you.
Supplemental, Deputy Felton.
Is it then the Minister's intention to rescind any of the actions previously agreed by the Assembly?
I don't think I said I was going to rescind anything. I said I'd be reviewing the report and considering. I don't think there's. I believe P23 asked for certain things to be considered. The Employment Forum has considered it, and we will respond to that report in due course. Thank you.
Final supplementary, Deputy Sutton.
Will the Minister be equally positive around item 6 of the annex, which says there should be a right to compensation for shift cancellation or curtailment without reasonable notice? Would she support that particular action?
So the Forum did not recommend a statutory right, but we will consider what should be done regarding that. As I say, I have to consider the report in detail with my team, and we will produce a full response shortly. Thank you.
Come to question 6 that Deputy Felton will ask the same Minister. Deputy.
Thank you, sir. Will the Minister update the Assembly as to what steps, if any, have been taken to ensure that eligible people are encouraged to apply for the community cost bonus before the application deadline?
I thank the Deputy for your question, sir. As members will recall, a significant advertising campaign to encourage take-up of the community cost bonus was initiated as part of the Council of Ministers mini-budget last year. I'm very pleased to confirm that over 3,800 claims have been approved for the 2022 payment, which was 4 times more than the previous year. An update to the media was issued at the beginning of March, highlighting the mini-budget measures and again telling people how they could apply. The most recent communications were issued earlier this month to remind individuals that the 2022 scheme remains open until the end of June 2023. This included social media coverage, a press notice and an article on our government to ask them to highlight government employees and encourage them to spread the word to people they knew who may not have claimed. However, the number of new valid claims being received is now very low, with a significant number of duplicate claims being received made by households who have already received the 2022 payment. Thank you.
Supplemental, Deputy Felton.
Thank you, sir. As the Minister will recall, I did bring forward a successful amendment which did expand the numbers of people that were eligible for the community cost bonus that would not have been eligible before. Those people are likely to be the least likely people to understand that they could claim. Has the government undertaken to do any, to take any direct contact with the people who may indeed be eligible?
Sir, I've already shared some of the extensive work that we did. It's difficult to identify sometimes people who may be liable, and I think we need to expect people to come forward. As I say, we have had 4 times more people have claimed this bonus than have done previously. We have asked all states members as well to remind their constituents, but there is a beyond routine and normal channels. I really think there's very little more that government can actually do to spread the message about this.
Deputy Kovac.
Thank you, sir. As Deputy Feltham mentioned, her amendment doubled the household eligible now to apply for this bonus. Why does the minister think, what does she think is the reason behind still solo application despite of the need increased in this cost of living crisis?
Sir, I don't know. I really don't know. We have promoted this heavily. People, it's a very simple application process. As I say, we have worked with Deputy Kovac and Deputy Poré and Deputy Alves to try and spread the word as much as we can within these communities. I would hope that Reform Jersey, who tell us that they speak to people the most disadvantaged all the time, would have been sharing the information. We have done very much that we can, and I simply do not know why people have not come forward. We have done everything we can to spread the word, and as I say, 4 times more than previous years. We make big estimates about people who may qualify. Those estimates may be over ambitious. Not that ambitious is the wrong word. We need to be cautious in making estimates to ensure that we have funds there to meet claims. But I cannot explain why, if there is a cost of living crisis, if people need this money, they have not come forward for it. Thank you.
Supplemental, Deputy Kovac. Deputy Southern.
Thank you, sir. Does the Minister have evidence of her success or otherwise in attempting to reach what are called hard-to-reach groups, i.e. those perhaps with English as a second language?
Sir, I believe all the material is published in different language versions. We have gone through numerous stakeholders, schools, head teachers, parish magazines, other key holders, charity stakeholders. We have asked Reform to help us in circulating that message around. And I can only say, again, we have 4 times more applications this year. I think that in itself is an expression of the success of our efforts. I have very little more I can say, sir. Thank you.
Supplemental question, Deputy Southern? Much indeed. Final supplementary, Deputy Feltham.
Thank you, sir. Sorry, I'm just getting my head together after hearing the Social Security Minister say, if there is a cost of living crisis. But given that, as the Minister has said, the take-up has been lower than expected, will the Minister commit to collaborating with other ministers and with colleagues within the Income Tax Department to see if there is a way that households that may indeed be eligible based on their tax payments in previous years can be contacted directly to be told that they could indeed apply for this particular bonus?
Sir, I apologise for my slip of the tongue. I was simply trying to emphasise that the Council of Ministers has done a great deal to try to improve and make funds available through numerous measures for people who are struggling with the acknowledged cost of living crisis. Nobody's any doubt of that. I think it is difficult to draw information from tax systems. The controller of tax receives information for the purposes of assessing tax, and it is difficult, I believe, for other parts of government to access that information for purposes other than the purpose for which it's gathered. That's a consequence of our data protection and privacy laws. I can only emphasise, we have done everything we can to reach people who are entitled to this money. It's not a difficult process. They can apply online, they can apply in writing, they can drop into Lamotte Street, they can phone. We have numerous channels for people to claim this benefit, and we have done everything we can to extend awareness of it. Thank you.
Very much, Minister. We come to question 7. The Deputy Mesic will ask the Minister for Treasury and Resources. Deputy.
Further to the announcement that the States of Jersey Development Company will appeal the decision of the Planning Committee to reject the application for a housing development on South Hill due to the proposed size of the apartments, will the Minister instruct the company to abandon the appeal and instead to focus on a new application which meets the requirement of the committee?
Thank you, sir. Following the sitting of the Assembly in March this year, I gave instruction to the SOJDC that planning applications should not be made that included any units that are under the minimum size standards. It has been confirmed that any such future application, including this application for South Hill when resubmitted, would include all units meeting the minimum size standards. I therefore don't intend to ask for the appeal to be withdrawn.
Supplemental.
Thank you, sir. And if such a application will come forward in the future that satisfies those requirements on minimum sizing, which was one of the key reasons that the Planning Committee rejected the previous application, what sense is there in continuing with an appeal when the company already knows what the grounds are upon which its previous application failed and presumably already has the information in which it needs to put forward a successful appeal? And is it not a waste of time and resources that a body which is meant to be accountable to elected states members is appealing against the legitimate decision of a committee populated by elected states members?
Thank you, sir. No, I don't think it is. As often happens in planning, the departmental expert, as we might call them, has a view based on the island plan or planning legislation, and rightly the planning panel takes a nuanced or a slightly different view, all perfectly legitimate. But it is absolutely right and appropriate that developers, any developer, can challenge either side of those decisions. So a decision can be appealed because the developer thinks the expert is wrong. There are a number of grounds upon which the refusal was based. I am absolutely clear that SOJDC have fully understood that they will not be bringing either this or any other application undersized. They're clear on that. There are other elements which it's right for an independent expert to opine upon.
Declan Curtis.
Thank you, sir. And I'll follow on from Deputy Mesic's point there. The SOJDC say in their annual report that they are to report and accountable to the States Assembly, who are accountable to the public of the island. Island plan policy is nuanced. Does the Minister not think, to Deputy Mesic's point, that the more nuanced point taken by democratically elected members who spend a lot of time looking at plans and reading the document is more worthwhile to take on account than an inspector's view?
Whilst that may be a point of view, so I think we would be entering extremely dangerous territory if we sought in any way to undermine the processes that we've got in place. We have the experts. Well, first of all, sir, we have this Assembly that produces the legislation. We have this Assembly that produces the island plan, and then we have the experts' interpretation of what this Assembly was trying to achieve through the legislation and the island plan. And then rightly, as following the UK model, we have the members of this Assembly sitting on the planning panel, which gives a direct democratic overlay to ultimately those decisions. On top of that, any decision of any body of this Assembly, be it a ministerial creature or be it the planning panel, rightly can appeal either to an independent planning inspector or to the Royal Court. So it would be, I think, a fundamental detriment to checks and balances if we accepted the view that the Deputy perhaps espoused.
Supplemental, Deputy Best.
Yes, thank you, sir. Then I completely appreciate the option and the process to appeal. Does that mean the Minister thinks that the ability for the States Assembly to direct the States of Jersey Development Company is broken, and we need a new mechanism to ensure that whatever the States of Jersey Development Company do bring is in line with the will of the States Assembly?
So the States Assembly has made its decisions in the legislation and the island plan. Any developer, any applicant, be it a private individual or a developer, has a right to expect that the decisions emanating from the department and also emanating from the planning panel are in line with the legislation and the island plan. But it's right that there can be debate, there can be disagreements, and when there are those debates and disagreements, there should be appropriate appeals mechanisms, whether that's to an independent inspector, whether it's in some cases to the Minister, or in other cases it's to the Royal Court.
I have Deputy Taddy, Connaught Iveson, Helier, Deputy Luce, and then final supplementary, Deputy Taddy.
So I can't help feeling that Deputy Gorst is the master of evasion. We're not asking a question about whether an appeals process should be in place. Of course there should be appeals processes, but only when an applicant disagrees with the results they're being told by the civil servants or the planning applications panel. Is the question not, should the Jersey Development Company, the States of Jersey Development Company even, be pursuing this, given the comments of the Deputy, in the meantime, which said he didn't want the States of Jersey Development Company to submit applications which were below minimum sizes, sir? Does it not fly in the face of his political assurance that he gave to this Assembly only a few weeks ago?
No, I don't believe it does, because that assurance holds good. There will be no application, whether it be this one or any other, which is below minimum standards. But there were other grounds that the panel gave for rejecting the application, which were at odds with the expert opinion of the planning officer. Nothing wrong with that, sir, but when that happens, we can expect appeals.
So how can we be assured that the States of Jersey Development Company won't continue to submit applications that are below size if they don't agree with the definitions that are given about minimum standards by the department, which is being proven in this case? And in fact, the question I would like to ask, supplementary, the main question, is that is it not the same? Does it not follow that if the Minister doesn't want them to submit applications that are below size, that they similarly shouldn't pursue appeals for applications which are below size?
You can answer which of those you like.
Well, I generally like to answer them all, sir, but time won't permit. Well, we remind ourselves, sir, that it was brought to the attention, or it was made clear to the SOJDC in advance of the planning applications panel hearing that it was not acceptable, despite what the planning officer might have indicated, that there should be any any below size units in that development. The SOJDC were on that day prepared to amend and resubmit their application with only in size units. For all sorts of technical reasons that wasn't permitted. I make no comment about that, and that is why it's right for them now to undertake this appeal. I am absolutely clear and have been clear with them, and I can be clear with this Assembly. They have given me their assurance, and we discussed this appeal in advance of them making it, particularly around the minimum standards, that they will not resubmit this application or any future application that does not meet the minimum standards as agreed by the planning department. And I can give no other assurance than that.
Conor St-Helier.
Thank you, sir. Would the Minister agree with me that there is a risk that this site could become a little like a site not a million miles distant, La Folie, which has been in the State's ownership for some years and which the States has done absolutely nothing with, and that we could see South Hill left emptied of planning officers and other departments, while the States of Jersey argue about what is the best future for the site?
Sadly, sir, the Connétable is absolutely right. We have done that on myriad occasions in the past, and it really ought to shame us. We should let them do the appeal. They will resubmit an application where units are appropriate sized within the minimum standards that the department proposes, and we can get on and start building some units of accommodation.
Yes, supplementary. Would the Minister go further and state that he shares my confidence that the Jersey Development Company can take a site that the States of Jersey has prevaricated about, such as the former Jersey College for Girls, which was derelict for most of my career in the States, and turn it into a really successful development of accommodation, College Gardens? Does he share my confidence? Thank you, sir.
So I'm going to upset colleagues now. I drive past that development every morning. I know some will say I should cycle, but I drive past that development every morning on the way to school, and I am more often than not reminded of what a great job that was done in that development. It looks good. They've respected the old building. They've built new units, and I think they can do so again.
Deputy Luce.
Thank you, sir. It's usual when senior civil servants disagree with their minister that they would write to that minister and say, I know what you're telling me and I don't agree, but I'll do what I'm told. Given this circumstance, sir, would the minister agree with me, given that the planning committees are appointed by this Assembly and the development company are in some ways a sort of de facto ministry, that regardless of the reason for the appeal, they should never appeal any decision of the planning committee?
So I think, in effect, I've answered that question, and I beg to disagree with the Deputy.
Wish to make a supplemental question for that?
Thank you, sir. And while I respect the minister's answer, I don't agree with him. Surely this Assembly is the decision-making authority. We agree the island plan. We then appoint a planning committee to administer that on our behalf and on behalf of the public. And if the State of Jersey Development Company are owned by us, I would hope that the minister would agree with me on reflection that they shouldn't be challenging decisions of the committee.
Well, that was a speech, not a question, Deputy.
I was hoping the minister would agree with me, sir.
The inchoate question.
So I certainly enjoyed his speech. Thank you.
Final supplementary, Deputy Messing.
Thank you, sir. The Minister's made repeated references to the process that any developer is able to follow, but we're not talking about any developer, we're talking about our developer, which is meant to be accountable to this Assembly and seems to think that it's above the decisions that have been made by a committee which has been appointed by this Assembly. So would the Minister, seen as he clearly is not willing to ask the States of Jersey Development Company to abide by decisions of the Planning Committee, quite disgracefully in my view, will he instead inform this Assembly of how much money, which ultimately belongs to the taxpayer because we own that company, is being wasted by pursuing an appeal against a legitimate decision of the planning committee rather than putting a proper application in place that meets our aspirations so that we can at some point see a decent development on there that's not plagued by all of the difficulties that the planning committee have already told them about.
So I think we heard there encapsulated the point that the Constable of St Helier was trying to make. We can choose to say to the Jersey Development Company, despite the fact that the expert said that things about the application, that it was in line with the law and the island plan. Planning panel had a different view, and that's perfectly legitimate, as I've said earlier. We can either deal with those technical planning issues in the appropriate way, following the appropriate process, or we can say to SOJDC, go back to the drawing board, submit a brand new application, the cost of which will be many hundreds of thousands of pounds, if not millions of pounds, whilst leaving a site idle. The opportunity cost for islanders of needing accommodation is far greater than we can quantify in monetary value. So I do not accept the question, sir.
Come to question 8. The Deputy Talier will ask the Chief Minister. Deputy Talier.
Thank you, sir. Further to the response of written question 147. Thank you. Further to the response of written question 147/2023, does the Chief Minister agree that taking independent advice is not the same as commissioning a full independent inquiry into the circumstances surrounding the unlawful search of premises, and will she publish the independent advice received, and if not, why not?
Minister.
Sir.
Chief Minister.
So I think I'm answering this question as we
Thank you very much, yes.
discussed with your chambers. The statement made by the Chief Minister on the 22nd of November 2022, when this issue came to light, referred to an independent review, not an inquiry. As stated last month in respect to the question regarding the investigation led by Jersey's Economic Crime and Confiscation Unit, which sits within the Law Officer's Department, after taking independent advice, the Government is satisfied that the Attorney-General and the Chief of Police have reviewed the circumstances around how the operational error with the warrants arose and have agreed measures that have now been put in place to ensure that such an operational error concerning the application of warrants does not happen again. Therefore, it is the case that independent advice was taken and that a process took place to assess how the error happened, followed by the implementation of measures to ensure it cannot happen again. As the Deputy will also note from the statement made in January 23, there is ongoing work being undertaken by all parties on the Memorandum of Understanding which was developed when the Economic Crime and Confiscation Unit was established. Whilst there is an ongoing investigation, we should and cannot say any more on this issue at this time. This also means that it would not be appropriate to share the independent legal advice.
Yes, sir, thank you. So let's be precise. So in fact, it wasn't legal advice that the Minister promised, and she didn't use the word inquiry, to be fair, but she did say, I have therefore requested an independent review that is undertaken following recent media reports, so that we can have confidence in our system, essentially. Does the Minister accept that the written answer acknowledges that the legal advice sought is not the same as having an independent review, because it says in that written answer that the advice obviates the need for a review. It doesn't say because it is a review, and that in fact there's a presumption that an independent review should actually be reviewed by somebody who is independent, not by government. So can the Minister confirm those two things are not the same, and that actually what this constitutes is a U-turn at the very top level of government?
Whilst I am happy to say that independent advice is not a review, of course I am, two different things. I do not accept the statement that the Deputy has just made. It was appropriate, in my view, for the Chief Minister to have made her initial statement. Appropriate actions were then taken, delegated to others, because of the circumstances that this Assembly heard about at the last sitting, and those actions, based on the independent advice, I think are appropriate as well.
Well, Deputy Rob Ward.
Thank you, sir. Can I ask the Minister who gave the independent legal advice?
Independent lawyers, sir.
Supplemental question to that?
Take a moment, sir. Can the Minister confirm that advice can be published with the consent of lawyers or the consent of the client?
No, sir, I can't advise that. As the Deputy knows, sir, it's an ongoing case, and I would not wish to do anything which might prejudice that ongoing case.
Sir, sorry, that was not the question. The question was, is the Minister aware that advice can be published with the consent of lawyers and the client themselves? It was not to do whether it's an active case now. That was, I believe, sir, a diversionary answer.
Well, it was an answer that addressed what I thought was the thrust of the question, but are you able to answer the specific question? Do you know, Minister, whether as a matter of law, if the giver of the advice and the receiver of the advice both agree the advice can be published?
So my understanding is that under normal circumstances that would be the case, but it would require some quite difficult decisions on behalf of the client around legal privilege and in consultation with lawyers. My answer to the question was that I am not proposing that for the reasons I outlined.
Final supplementary, Deputy Taddy.
Thank you, sir. So the Chief Minister actually in November said that she did not, this is a direct quote, she did not think the matter would impact on ongoing legal proceedings. So we've been promised a review by this Better Way government in response to the media, is what the Chief Minister said, that she wanted an independent review. We find ourselves a few months later having not had an independent review. The government's given legal advice which we haven't seen, which we don't know even who did it. We don't know how much it cost and we don't know what it said. Does the acting Assistant Chief Minister acknowledge the fact that it's not simply enough for reassurance to be given that government is satisfied with the system, that this won't happen again, but that the public need to be reassured that if their offices or their homes are raided, it will be done legally, and if it is done illegally, that they can get the same recourse to an apology from the Chief of Police personally and to some compensation if ever that happens again.
So I fully understand the look on your face in listening to that question. The Deputy well knows that ministers are appointed by this Assembly to take decisions. Sometimes those decisions can be difficult. As I said at the start, the Chief Minister is absolutely right, in my view, to make the statement that she did. Actions were taken arising out of that statement that may not have been to the liking of the Deputy. In relation to his final point, sir, I take reassurance that processes have been put in place so that the errors don't happen again. But of course, it would be open to any member of the public in any given situation to challenge the processes that they had been subject to, and they would be rightly considered by appropriate processes. So, and so I can't comment on those without having further detail or it actually having happened.
Indeed. Well, we come to question 9 that Deputy Luce will ask the Chief Minister. Deputy.
Thank you, sir. So, will the Chief Minister advise whether any consideration has been given by government to requiring ministers and senior civil servants to consider their responsibilities in relation to resilience, with a view to strengthening Jersey's resilience to unforeseen events, especially in light of the UK Government's Resilience Framework published in December 2022?
Chief Minister.
Thank you, sir. Ministers are aware of their responsibilities in respect to resilience and take these responsibilities extremely seriously. To that end, the government is undertaking work to strengthen the island's resilience in a changing global context. The focus of the UK framework is to enhance and empower local resilience forums. The Jersey Resilience Forum is constituted of an executive group and a delivery group and is supported by various working groups focusing on areas of risk identified through the Community Risk Register or emerging issues that may pose a threat to Jersey, which, if materialised, may lead to a crisis, major incident or an emergency. As ministers and legislators, we also recognise that the emergency powers and planning law is outdated. Our emergency planning team is working to develop new civil contingencies legislation based on the themes in the UK GRF, building on whole of society resilience and prevention of chronic issues or risks becoming acute.
Yes, Minister. Sorry, I'm losing track a little bit. Supplemental question.
Thank you, sir. I'm grateful to the Chief Minister, and I just made a very quick list of things that I was sort of beginning to think about: floods and droughts, technical and IT hacking, connectivity and our food security, energy security, health and disease, global pandemics, global downturn of financial services, prolonged recessions, and then security risks to Ukraine and further afield in Taiwan. And I'm just looking, sir, can the Chief Minister assure the Assembly that she is being proactive and not reactive to all these threats?
The Deputy is quite right. There are indeed many risks in the global context and the island context at the moment. And the Council of Ministers, as part of its duties, has apprised itself of our risk register, and it's something that we consider as an important thing to maintain an overview and an eye on that and ensure that it's properly updated. There are many different work streams, and I don't think I can respond to each of the risks that the Deputy outlined. But for example, the Rural Support Scheme that the Economic Development Minister has found funding for and pursued with great energy is starting to deliver on our aspiration of having greater local food supplies. And indeed, sir, as a result of that scheme, we are expecting to see a further 20 farms created annually in the next few years.
Very well. Deputy Scott.
Thank you, sir. Given that the civil contingency also should be looking at supply chain, and in view of the fact that the Controller and Auditor General has already highlighted government's failure to address right-sizing in terms of the size of this island's population, will the Chief Minister and the committee be considering the extent to which the supply chains have the capacity for competition that seems to be contemplated by the Jersey Competition Authority?
Chief Minister.
I thank the Deputy for the question. As I sat down trying to keep my previous answer relatively brief and concise, I was immediately going to go to supply chain and supply lines. As members will be quite aware, I'm sure, the Economy Minister is also fully focused on developing new supply routes, and that is something that is an active aim of government at the moment, and we look forward to delivering upon it.
Supplemental question, Deputy John.
Sir, will that include regarding the extent to which the Jersey Competition Authority has been adequately briefed to consider the actual extent to which competition, this island can sustain competition in order to maintain secure supply chains?
So I have to say I'm not cited on whether that discussion has or hasn't taken place. I'm sure that regular discussion with the Competition Authority would be a matter of course. But naturally, we all have to maintain some sort of balance in terms of recognising our size and the scale of our island economy versus the need to maintain competition and enable, particularly in these times, that prices are the best prices available to islanders.
Well, final supplementary, Deputy Luce.
Thank you, sir, and I'm grateful to the Chief Minister. I'm sure, like me, she's looked at the UK government's framework, which talks about the ability to anticipate, assess, prevent, mitigate, and respond to known and direct risks. But I'd like an assurance from her, sir, if she can, to just say that she's also thinking about unknown and indirect risks into the future.
Thank you, sir. And I thank the Deputy for the question. I can, of course, unknown. It's very difficult to commit to being aware of all of the unknowns. And so I guess I need to temper my answer relatively carefully. But as I think I outlined in the initial answer, we are engaging with experts in this field who are assisting us in updating our legislation. And I look forward to seeing the next phase of that and bringing it to the Assembly.
Thank you very much, Chief Minister. The following question is 10 that Deputy Mesic will ask of the Minister for Housing and Communities. Deputy.
Thank you, sir. Will the Minister advise what plans, if any, he has to utilise the £10 million set aside in successive government plans to support first-time buyers in such a way to maximise the number of islanders who will benefit from this, but without causing inflationary pressures which would push home ownership further out of reach for those not able to benefit from the scheme?
Minister.
Thank you, sir. Thank the Deputy for his question. I'm grateful for such a timely question, and I also am grateful for the Deputy to recognise how challenging this is, that when we're deploying this kind of money, we need to be considering inflationary effects that the options could have on the market. And I think that's a really important point to make. I'm fully committed to utilising the 10 million of the government plan, to invest in assisted home ownership schemes. I can confirm that I intend to bring forward my preferred policy options in the summer with a view to launching a scheme as soon as possible after that. It is one of my priorities to assist islanders in realising their aspirations of home ownership. As the Deputy himself notes, however, we must ensure that such a scheme addresses the affordability challenges that islanders are facing. We must also ensure it is targeted towards those who need assistance, and it does not have an inflationary impact, as I already stated, on property prices. This is why we must explore a broad range of options before committing to the specific type and features of an assisted home ownership scheme, and I will keep members up to date as we progress this work.
Supplemental question, Deputy.
Thank you, sir. In a recent interview, I heard the Minister refer to the potential use of this fund for loans, and that slightly concerned me because there are iterations of a loan scheme that could risk having an inflationary impact in the housing market. So could I ask the Minister to inform the Assembly whether he has ruled out any kind of loan option that would risk inflationary pressures, and whether he is instead exploring shared equity options which may stand a better chance of mitigating against that?
So I thank the Deputy for his question. Nothing is ruled out at this moment in time. We're considering shared equity schemes, a deposit loan scheme where a government contributes to the deposit that a home buyer cannot find themselves, potentially shared ownership schemes, supply-side schemes, for instance, where government provides funding towards increasing the supply of assisted ownership homes for purchasing land or refurbishing vacant homes, as an example. And then there's obviously also better use of the island's existing housing stock by such ideas as maybe subdividing larger properties and assisting in doing that.
Nadia?
Would the Minister ensure that mistakes from the past are learned from, and so, for example, that any schemes that do exist are set up in perpetuity so that they remain affordable in perpetuity, and so that actually people can't take advantage, intentionally or otherwise, of using government subsidies for their own profit, which then end up of no help to affordable housing in the longer term?
Thank Deputy for his question. Absolutely, that's our intention. The objective here, and we already have this with first-time purchasers, whereby someone who has bought a first-time purchasing home has to sell to a first-time purchaser so that value is kept down and there aren't unanticipated gains made in this field.
Yes. Does the Minister believe that some of the terms need to be redefined? Because being a first-time purchaser isn't necessarily equivalent to somebody who has an affordability issue. It just means they haven't owned necessarily yet, or they haven't owned in that particular way. And does he think that it's actually more important to make sure that the schemes remain intact, so that if you buy a property, either shared equity or other form of subsidy, you sell it back to the scheme and then it goes to the next person on the waiting list, rather than simply relying on the blunt tool of the first-time buyer definition?
Thank you, sir. Yes, I mean, I absolutely agree with that sentiment, and I would suggest that that is our intent in our policy development.
Deputy Felton.
Thank you, sir. Could the Minister confirm whether he has any defined policy position when it comes to the provision of affordable first-time buyers' homes?
I thank the Deputy for her question. Do we have any policy? We obviously have existing policies in place. I think in terms of I'm hoping we're referring to how we utilise the £10 million scheme. So that's where I'm trying to put my focus in. In terms of what's the best option and how we use that and how we deploy that, no, I don't have any particular preferences at this moment in time, and I'm awaiting my policy officers to develop those schemes and bring them forward.
Supplemental, Deputy.
Thank you, sir. I think I just heard the Minister admit that he is letting officers lead on policy. Does he agree that the public are getting fed up with the lack of policy leadership being shown by the Housing Minister, and that this lack of leadership is to blame for the lack of action currently being taken by his government?
Thanks, sir. And thank the Deputy for her question or challenge. I think that's grossly unfair, to be honest with you. I think we are doing a huge amount in this sphere. It's quite interesting that this £10 million to which I'm referring, and again, we're getting dragged away from the original oral question here, and that is we are trying to spend a sum of money which has been recognised for the last 4 years and has been failed, or 3 years I should say, has been failed to be delivered in any shape or form by any previous housing minister. I would suggest the fact that if I get this scheme through, which I totally intend to do this summer, I think that would be a huge amount of progress given all the failed efforts of previous housing ministers. I'd also add that you're obviously seeing consultation in terms of legislation which is currently ongoing. We're also seeing announcements in connection with homelessness. There's a huge amount of work being done in our department, and I really object to saying we're doing nothing.
The Constable St Saviour, then the final supplementary, Conor St Saviour.
Thank you, sir. I'm sure the Minister is doing his very best to alleviate the situation, sir, but being old school, can I ask the Minister whether a good old-fashioned states loan scheme, well funded by the states, would be one of the solutions to help young people get on the housing ladder, sir?
I thank the Constable for his question. Absolutely. It's certainly not ruled out as one of the considerations. Thank you.
Supplemental, Hunter. Final supplemental, Deputy Medley.
Well, thanks, sir. Nothing's ruled out, but it sounds like nothing's ruled in either. In answer to an earlier question, he gave such a wide list of considerations of what may be featured in this scheme that we can have no confidence whatsoever that they are actually at the point of delivering a scheme. The suggestion that's just been made by the Constable of St Saviour would risk being inflationary because it increases demand without increasing supply. So would, in the attempt to show at least some leadership today, he be willing to rule out such a scheme because of the negative impact that would have and the way that it may actually push more people further away from home ownership than towards it?
So thank the Deputy for his question. I think the most important thing about all of this is it's about deliverability. Can we actually deliver and employ and put out this fund in an effective and timely way? That's the most important issue. So in terms of ruling things out, ruling things in, as a previous housing minister, I'm sure Deputy Mezek considered an awful lot of this and never actually delivered any of it. So my job now is to go out there and deliver some of this, and we will for sure deliver for the benefit of the islanders of this, the people of this island. Thank you.
Well, we come to question 11. The Deputy Harwood asks the Minister for Economic Development, Tourism, Sport and Culture. Deputy.
Thank you, sir. Further to the responses given during questions without notice in January and April this year, is the Minister able to confirm when the Jersey Lifeboat Association's vessel will be operational again? And if not, why not, sir? Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So I'd like to start by answering this question by saying quite simply, I would like to see their vessel back on the water, the JLA's vessel back on the water as soon as possible. But the reality is the timing of that depends entirely upon the JLA itself. Under the Jersey Coast Guard's Declared Facility Agreement Management Framework, the JLA were engaged in a redeclaration process with Ports of Jersey. The aim is for the JLA reacquiring its declared search and rescue asset status. So following that process, which took place both an audit on the 30th of January and then a station visit on the 2nd of May, as I discussed in the previous answer to the question. Following that process, it was clear that there were 5 items outstanding that the JLA had to undertake in order to get back onto the water. Of those 5 items, since that process took place on the 2nd of May, 2 are now left outstanding. Those 2 are the provision of a valid insurance certificate and also the completion of the bridge management framework. The bridge management framework is now nearly complete, but needs to be finessed, so to speak, to be completed. Once those 2 items are delivered by the JLA, they will be certified to go back on the water. They then have another 60 days in which to complete several other items which are outstanding. So the answer is, it has nothing to do with me. It is entirely up to the JLA to get themselves back on the water.
Supplemental question, Deputy.
Thank you, sir. I just wondered if there's anything we can do to help the Jersey Lifeboat to get operational again. Thank you.
Thank you. I suggest they phone their insurance brokers.
On to Arbison Brillard.
Thank you, sir. Would the Minister agree that any organisation purporting to offer maritime safety services should be fully compliant with current maritime regulations, given that all existing operational agencies are obliged to do so?
Thank you, and I thank the Contab for the question. And yes, I entirely agree. And it is one reason why people have erroneously been suggested that I can order the JLA boat to be put back in the water. Number 1, I do not have that power. Number 2, even if I did have that power, to exercise such a power without knowing whether all of the requirements that the Contab refers to have been undertaken would be grossly negligent on the part of any minister. But importantly, I do not have that power. However, I do expect the Harbours Authority to make sure that every organisation, whether it's the JLA, the RNLI or any other, meets those requirements.
Supplemental comment?
I thank the Minister for his answer, sir.
Deputy Balash.
So, bearing in mind that the previous government but one, in the shape of the Chief Minister at the day, and other ministers were supportive of the establishment of the Jersey Lifeboat Association, that many hundreds of Jersey people have supported this organisation, and that the crew trains regularly in order to get itself into a suitable state to form part of the life-saving community. Is the Minister satisfied that Ports of Jersey Limited is doing everything that it can to get this lifeboat back into service?
Thank you, sir. And I maintain again, in response to the question, the same as I did to the very original question, it is up to the JLA to get themselves back on the water. The provision of a valid insurance certificate is, in my view, a fairly fundamental document that would be required of any organisation that wants to be a search and rescue asset on the organisation in these waters. I, sir, have sat in meetings with both the JLA and Ports of Jersey. I have made it very clear to both parties that they are to play this all with a straight bat. I expect no prejudice on any part. I have made that clear. Ports of Jersey know that. They have undertaken a process, the Declared Facility Framework that I have mentioned, which was overseen by the Maritime and Coast Guard Agency, both parties, the JLA and Ports of Jersey, agreed to that oversight by the Maritime and Coast Guard Authority from the UK, who very kindly donated their time to us to do that. I have no question in my mind that the process was fair, that Ports of Jersey are doing everything they can, but what none of us can do is provide a valid insurance certificate on behalf of the JLA. Only they can do that themselves.
Supplementary question, Deputy.
I'd be grateful if the Minister could answer the question. Is he satisfied that Ports of Jersey Limited is supportive of the wish of the JLA to get back into active service?
Sir, I am satisfied that Ports of Jersey is doing everything it can to make sure the JLA get back into service, but they are not breaching their requirements of maritime standards in order to make that happen.
Final supplementary, Deputy Hull.
No, thank you, sir.
Very well, we come to question 12. Deputy Owls will ask the Minister for Health and Social Services. Deputy Owls.
Thank you, sir. In light of the Minister for Infrastructure's recent comments that the hospital facilities created at the old Llanelvey School site could be kept for 20 to 25 years, will the Minister clarify what her long-term plan is for the services due to be delivered from this site, given that it was meant to be a temporary 5-year measure? Thank you, sir.
Minister.
Thank you, sir. At this moment in time, it is too early to identify or determine what the long-term plan for the services that will remain at Enid Kenno Health and Wellbeing Centre looks like. We are waiting for the feasibility review on the new healthcare facility programme, and once we have a clear understanding of what that tells us, I'll be happy to share more information.
Supplemental question, Deputy.
Thank you, sir. Was the Minister aware of this 20 to 25 year plan for the site before the Infrastructure Minister made those comments? Thank you, sir.
I wasn't aware of the timescale, but we're talking about two different things here. We're talking about the lifespan of a building, and we're talking about the way in which services can be provided over a 25-year period. And as we all know, services do change and the requirements will change. But in essence, that does not stop the function of Enid Kenno Health and Wellbeing Centre being supported to provide services in the local community over a 25 period, if indeed that is the fabric duration of the if that is the duration of the fabric of the building.
Deputy Tadyer.
The Minister may be aware of the political slogan, "Nothing about us without us." That's the idea that representatives shouldn't make any decisions without the full consultation and engagement of those directly affected. So in thinking about that, I'm thinking immediately about those in the vicinity of Clos de Sable and the Kenno Bay Park. I can't help feeling that there hasn't been any meaningful consultation with these residents in particular, who are now being told that they might be left with what was supposed to be a temporary hospital facility on their doorstep for about 5 years, potentially being there for the next 25 years. Can she comment about what consultation has taken place either with her department or with DFI?
Sarah, I would like to just reiterate that the reason why we are actually at the Edith Kenno Health and Wellbeing Centre is to support the decanting of the Overdale facility to make way for new healthcare facilities on that site. Clearly, there has been some opportunity identified to build and consolidate the provision of services in the location. But any long-term planning will certainly involve a much broader consultation with the local public, as well as with the representatives who represent the parishioners' interest.
Supplemental, Deputy?
Yeah, I can't help feeling we're putting the cart before the horse here. It sounds like decisions are either being made at the moment by stealth. I can't help feeling that we're sleepwalking into a situation where we don't really know where the hospital is going, and that because of that, we're making consequential decisions. And in my constituency, and in the heart of the most populated area of my constituency, there was high hopes, I think, when the old school was ceased to be used, that it could be used for some longer-term community use, which wasn't simply, if you excuse the rather clumsy expression, so the plonking of a healthcare facility because there was nowhere else for it to go. Will she speak to the direct representatives of that area, including the non-ministerial, the two non-ministerial members, to make sure that the residents of the area are engaged with in short order through a meeting that's convenient for all parties?
Yes, sir, I'd be happy to do that.
Well, I have Constable St Brillard, Deputy Ward, Deputy Feltham, and then final supplementary. Constable St Brillard.
Thank you, sir. Would the Minister agree that, given the level of investment to date on the site, that extending its life can only provide better value for the people of Jersey? Thank you, sir.
Minister. Minister? Yes, sir. This
Sorry,
is
sir, could we...
questions directed to you, Minister.
My apologies. Sorry, could I ask the Deputy to repeat, please?
Right. Would you mind repeating the question,
Not at all, sir. Given the level of investment in the site so far, would the Minister agree that extending its life can only provide better value for the people of Jersey?
I think it is, as I've said before, it's too early to say. I think we will get really good value out of it for the duration that was originally identified. Clearly, this decision was taken before I came into office. But I think the facility that is available in the location will serve the community well, irrespective of what it actually provides.
Supplemental, Constable?
Sir, and would the Minister agree that her team in developing the proposals have been engaging well with the parish authority in terms of the Roads Committee and the arrangements needed to enable the hospital to open with bus access and so on? Would she agree with that process that has worked well?
I will review it. I have had some representation as to some concerns raised by constituents. And if I think the process to determine access is an issue, then I will certainly address that with colleagues.
Deputy Ward.
Thank you, sir. In any consultation about long-term use of a facility, will the Minister take on board the effects of putting such a facility into an area where lots of people live in terms of the transport issues that do arise when these things happen? Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Yes, I will. Access is an issue, not only transport-wise, but also in terms of the volume of activity that goes on there, and we will keep this under review. What I can actually advise Assembly members is that we do have a range of services that are going to be provided, and we have no sense at the moment as to whether or not people will choose to go and take these services up at McKenna Bay, or whether they will choose different options. But one of the things that we do know is that there are clinicians who are very interested to actually provide those services at McKenna Bay. But as I said, the issue of land access will keep into review.
Supplemental question, Deputy?
Thank you, sir. And in terms of transport, will the facility have staff that are solely based in that health facility, or will there be a movement of staff around a number of different health facilities, which could also increase the movement around that area? Thank you, sir.
So at the moment, we are planning to have some static services that will have identified staff groups, and I'm happy to provide Assembly members with a list of the services that will be planned for over the 5-year period. Clearly, as service arrangements and service requirements change, this may well fluctuate, and clearly we will keep this under review.
Deputy Feltham?
Thank you, sir. As this was originally planned as a temporary accommodation for services while Overdale was planned for those 5 years, my understanding was that a number of those services being moved were in community services that were happy on a temporary basis, but potentially it is less convenient to be not centrally based. What conversations has the Minister had with those services about this being a more longer term option, and whether indeed this is the best place for these services to be situated on the island?
Sorry, so just before I answer that, I am having problems with my microphone button here. It keeps sticking, so if I can't turn it off.
Well, it's on at the moment, I think, so I think we're
okay?
fine. Yes.
Right, okay. So in answer to the Deputy's question, there have been a number of staff groups and specialisms that have talked to me about the concerns that they've got, particularly in relation to access to services. One of the things that I think is important to remember is that we have planned for this on a 5-year basis, and clearly that needs to be an arrangement in place until we're in a position to be able to provide the alternative hospital facilities where these services could or may be permanently located. But for this moment in time, we're listening, we're talking to staff, we're trying to understand some of the concerns. And again, until we actually move and actually see how the service is working, I'm not in a position to address some of those issues until we know whether the service is working for patients.
Supplemental question, Deputy Felton.
Thank you, sir. Given the uncertainty that the Minister has just expressed, does she consider the additional expenditure on making this facility suitable for a 25-year term to be good value for money?
I think, sir, that will be determined over time. I think the investment that has gone into the service arrangements at this moment in time represents good value for money in the sense that it is providing much more upgraded or suitable accommodation for the majority of the services that will be relocated there. It will be in a modern, refurbished environment. Some of the facilities are not offering that currently. That said, there will be no real change for some of the services that currently enjoy decent facilities at Over-Dale. But faced with the strategic choices that we've got, we have to make an investment in the transition and the development of services so that we can start to build the new healthcare facilities across the island. And our investment in these facilities has been, in my view, well used, because if you go round to the centre itself, you will see that the specification is actually a really good policy building for people to work at.
Final supplementary, Deputy Alves.
Thank you, sir. We've heard from the Minister that obviously these things take time and it's fairly flexible at the moment. Can the Minister give us an idea of when she will have a plan and an idea of how exactly things will look on the site? Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. I think on the outcome of the feasibility review, we will then start to develop the service strategy. The feasibility review has been undertaken to assess whether or not it is possible to move from a one-site option to a two-site option. What we now need to do, the next stage of that, is to understand how and in what way we will strategically organise services for the longer term. I will put a caveat in with that, which is that we do need to take account of the fast-moving changes that impact upon the way services are provided, particularly the developments of technology. So this is not a fixed point, but there are some basic foundations that we need to put in place that will be revealed through a service strategy going forward.
Well, we now come to question 13. The Deputy Andrews will ask the Minister for Treasury and Resources. Deputy.
Thank you, sir. Will the Minister advise what consideration, if any, has either been given or it is intended to give to the introduction of profit-sharing legislation? Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. The government is, of course, aware of a wide range of approaches adopted by differing businesses operating in Jersey to providing their employees with opportunities to share in any profits of the business. These range from simple performance bonuses to grants of shares, share options and complex long-term incentive plans, including putting assets into trust for employees. the government has not been made aware of any issues of Jersey law which limit businesses' ability to offer these types of incentives in Jersey. The current approach for the purposes of income tax and social security is based on long-standing principles of law commonly accepted by most jurisdictions. This is seen to be the most effective approach, as the majority of businesses offering these plans are based in and across multiple other jurisdictions. Any bespoke Jersey legislation could therefore increase administrative burden and even frustrate the intentions of employer and employee without bringing any identifiable benefits.
Supplementary question, Deputy?
Yes, please, sir. Profit sharing in the form of, say, cash distributions, this is something that potentially could actually reduce income inequality. So would the Minister potentially support a proposal that I would maybe bring before the Assembly, or would it be outright denied? Thank you, sir.
So it's difficult to ascertain what exactly the Deputy was seeking information on in the question. I am more than happy to sit down with him, with my officials, and consider any proposal in a constructive a way as possible.
Well, we come to question 14. The Deputy Southern will ask the Minister for Social Security. Deputy.
Thank you, sir. And let's hope it's a short one. Will the Minister state how many individuals are registered as single parents on income support? And of these, how many are in receipt of maintenance income, either for themselves or for their children?
Minister.
Thank you, sir. At present, there are 1,099 single parents receiving income support. Of those, 962, which is 87.5%, have maintenance income included in their claim.
Supplemental question, Deputy.
I thank the Minister for answer. Nice to get a short, sharp answer.
Well, we come to question 15. The Deputy Feltham will ask of the Assistant Chief Minister. Deputy.
Thank you, sir. Will the Assistant Chief Minister outline what her policy position is in relation to population and migration?
Thank you. I thank the Deputy for her question. I was very pleased to accept the request of the Chief Minister to support her in this important policy area. I took on this responsibility around 5 weeks ago and am therefore still doing some catching up in terms of the work already completed by the Population and Skills Ministerial Group, of which I'm now a member. What I can say is that I fully support the overall direction of that group in its desire to create policies that support the population as a whole and equally value every individual within that population. My policy position has not changed since I wrote my manifesto. I support an improved skills agenda to grow and develop local talent, balanced with a need for some inward migration to ensure we have a skilled workforce, fit for the future, and remain a vibrant place to live, work, and do business. We need improved data, which is being worked on, and a flexible system which can respond to emerging challenges. I'm currently working with a subgroup of the Population and Skills Ministerial Group to complete our annual report on population policy issues, and this is due to be published before the end of June.
Supplemental question, Deputy Feltham.
Thank you, sir. As the Assistant Chief Minister does have delegated responsibility, how does she intend to provide leadership in this area?
I thank the Deputy for her question. I very much see my role in this as working collaboratively with the Chief Minister. I'm not taking the responsibility of population away from the Chief Minister entirely. I would also point the Deputy to that Population and Skills Ministerial Group, which is providing collaborative leadership as a group of ministers working together to set policy direction and discuss all matters related to population. Population is about more than just the number of people on our island, and I believe all ministers related to that important area will be showing leadership on it.
Deputy Rob Ward.
Thank you, sir. May I ask the Minister, does this mean that the Minister does not support a zero population policy growth?
That would be correct.
Thanks, sir. And could I ask whether the Minister agrees with the Assistant Chief Minister who recently spoke at a conference about being able to produce significant increase in our growth in our economy, up to 5 times the growth of where we are now, without any increase in our population?
I am aware, and I know that the Chief Minister is aware because she said it at scrutiny only last week, that some ministers did stand on platforms of net inward migration. I would point the Deputy to the Future Economy Programme, which is working towards growing the economy with as little pressure on population growth as possible. We've heard very publicly some very stark warnings about where our population could stand in a couple of decades if we continue to want to push growth as we have been doing previously. It is quite clear we need to take some action which doesn't continue down that path, and I think there's been some clear indications that all those ministers I talked about before, working together as part of that group, are working collectively towards that aim.
Final supplementary, Deputy Feldman.
Could the Assistant Chief Minister inform the Assembly if she intends to take any work to identify what a sustainable population may be for the island, given our size?
The Deputy may well be aware that the States Assembly in 2021 required the Council of Ministers to discuss and agree their common policy on population on a regular basis and at least annually. Ministers are currently in that process, and a report on that position will be lodged with the Assembly in the coming weeks in June.
So I don't think that was an answer to the question. My question specifically related to what work would be undertaken to identify what a sustainable population was.
In a few weeks, in June, I'm sure the Deputy will be able to read that report and have some more answers to that. It is very much a part of that.
Very well. And we now come to question 16. The Deputy Tadier will ask of the Minister for Housing and Communities. Deputy.
Thank you, sir. There is someone to ask, I presume. The
Chief Minister will be answering the question.
Thank you. Further to his answer to written question 177, 2023, will the Minister confirm whether it's the Government's intention to create a digital property register of beneficial ownership for all residential properties, and if not, why not?
Chief Minister.
Thank you, sir, and apologies from Deputy War, but he has had to leave the Assembly as he's giving a keynote speech at the Vacant Homes Conference in Birmingham today, and he couldn't stay in the Assembly any longer without... it shows he's meeting his policy commitments, I think, and receiving great interest in other places for it. Sir, to answer this question, the government is very interested in how we can get a better understanding of the housing market. It is vital to have high quality information so that we can make the right policy decisions. But a digital register of beneficial ownership for both residential and commercial properties is perhaps not the best way to do this. We recognise the need to improve information sharing, which is why officers are working on a housing data intelligence project, which is identifying trends, resolving housing supply data barriers, and developing housing market analysis capability in partnership with Statistics Jersey and the Economics Unit. So I have committed to a review of the States Assembly decisions. Whether or not to create a digital register of property ownership will form part of that. In the meantime, no further work will be done. The focus of the government is clearly outlined in the 2023 Ministerial Plan and the legislative programme.
Supplementary question, Deputy.
Thank you, sir. I know this government could be criticised for inaction, but certainly when it comes to making new nomenclature, they're right up there with the best, sir. The current policy position that of the previous Assembly, and it hasn't been changed, it's not been rescinded, is that there should be a digital property register, is what the Assembly had voted for. If this is no longer the case, and government no longer wishes to pursue a digital property register, will they be coming back with a rescindment to that proposition?
So as I think I outlined in the original response, that is something that is under consideration. And of course, if that decision is taken, then we will return to this Assembly to seek the approval of members, as is, of course, the right thing to do. But what we have to consider is the information that we already have in place. And there is, of course, a great deal of information available to the public and to the authorities with regards property ownership. In these times, we are taking a great amount of time to consider how best we're spending money and how best we're employing officials as well to work on behalf of the public. We have to ensure value for money, and that means ensuring that we are not duplicating work and effort simply to be able to tick box, and we are taking time to ensure what and reassure ourselves of what information is available publicly and what will be the most expedient and cost-efficient way to deliver the information.
Well, Deputy Rob Ward.
Thank you, sir. Can I just ask the Chief Minister now what the timescale for some outcome from, I think it was referred to as the Housing Intelligence Unit. Sounds interesting. Perhaps it's a smart home, sir. Apologies. What's the timescale for an outcome from that?
I'm afraid, sir, I don't have that to hand, but as I mentioned in the earlier answer, this piece of work is outlined in the ministerial plan for this year.
Thank you, sir. Can I ask for an assurance as well, and it's a wider assurance actually, sir, which I think does fit into this question, about the use of rescindments, because if an action agreed on by this Assembly is not going to be acted on, so can I ask the Minister to assure, particularly with this one and any other, that a rescindment is brought to this Assembly so that we don't have empty propositions just being left with the disregard from the current government? Thank you, sir.
I think if we limit the question to this particular area, then that is within a...
That's very helpful, sir, because my mind immediately went to some random pieces of legislation that I have become aware of recently that have not been enacted. And so it is certainly not a novel experience for the Assembly and previous governments to fail to progress on matters that were agreed by the previous Assembly. But what I do reassure members is that we take value for money extremely seriously, and we want to ensure that we deliver the best possible services for the best value, and that is an important thing to focus on in this time of government.
Final supplementary, Deputy Taddy.
So I don't have a further question, thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Final question then, with notice, Deputy Rob Ward will ask the Minister for the Environment. Deputy.
Hello, sir. So thank you, sir. Hello. Following the announcement of payments of up to £10,000 per household to replace oil-fired boilers, will the Minister advise what consideration, if any, has been given to adapting current boilers to biofuel, given the less expensive measure than replacement, in conjunction with the announced project, in order to allow a transition phase for the longer-term work as the longer-term work is carried out? Thank you, sir.
Yes.
So I think, excuse me, I thank the Deputy for the question, which is a good one. The scheme that we announced, my colleague Deputy John announced a week or two ago, does not include a conversion for fuel oil, but it is under very active consideration, and in fact we have asked officers to create a pilot scheme to make that conversion, to explore how we might do that kind of a conversion. The key point being that we need to make sure that if a conversion from conventional fossil fuel boilers to a boiler burning HVO fuel does take place, that it isn't converted back at some future point to fossil fuel. So it is a conversion of technology. It does involve changing the boiler, but of course it could be changed back. And we just need to work on that to make sure that, that we don't end up in a situation where we funded a piece of technology that doesn't end up being used in the way we'd hope.
Supplemental question, Deputy?
Yeah, thank you, sir. can I ask the Minister, given that the project announced, which is probably the right thing to do, will take a long time, a significant amount of time, and given that we're already showing that we're going above 1.5 degrees regularly, and urgency is really now needed, can I ask the Minister whether he can look to really promote that area because home emissions are one of the largest emissions of CO2 on the island. Thank you, sir.
Yes, so it's for that reason that we have asked for a trial to be put in place, and seeing the results of that trial will enable us to decide whether or not to go further with that. I do hope, though, that the scheme that we've announced will help us on that urgent quest to decarbonise. It is certainly a big challenge. We have something of the order of 20,000 fossil fuel boilers, I think, in the island. Simple maths will tell you that to do those conversions before 2050 is going to be tough. We've set a target of 1,000 within the scheme, the end of this scheme, which is the end of 2025, I think. That is of the order of 1 a day, to give some context for this, 1 a day. That is a fairly stiff target to meet, but we are keen to do it. We've got the funds in place to do it, and we've created a scheme to train people up so that they are able to do that scheme in a way which offers quality assurance to the public, and we look forward very much to seeing how good the uptake of that is.
Deputy
Thank you, sir. Does the Minister acknowledge that not only is there an absence of subsidy for those wishing to make the right green choices, so in this particular example, but there are examples, of course, about wishing to go with an electric bike, an electric car, and that in those cases, that on top of the lack of subsidy, that government slaps 5% of GST onto those bills. And with that in mind, does he think that it's justifiable that GST is still being charged on behavioural change that we would otherwise like to see in terms of some significant expenditure?
There's quite a lot in that question, but I'll deal with that last point first. Yes, I do actually, and the reason is because this is more a question about GST, I think, than it is about carbon incentives. We have a low, broad and simple principle with our taxation, and GST fits into that. We tax we tax GST in that way in order to keep the level low. If we take it off things, we have to raise the money elsewhere. My focus is on creating the incentives elsewhere through other means that will achieve the policy objectives. That's why we have these subsidy schemes, which are worth far, far more than would be achieved by a very small effective reduction in prices that would come through reducing GST. We are putting in place targeted measures to achieve a specific policy objective. That is, I think, the best way to deliver that huge change that we need to achieve.
So, thank you, sir. That answer would be correct if it wasn't for the fact that government already has significant exemptions. Notably, we don't charge GST on marine fuel, so people with super yachts don't pay GST or even duty on their marine fuel, and school tuition fees are exempt from that. And that's presumably because it's for a political outcome. They want to incentivise a particular type of behaviour. So does he recognise that because we already incentivise behaviour through a removal of GST in certain examples, that it's actually a perfectly valid thing to apply to green initiatives and green purchases, so at least that those who spend perhaps £10,000 replacing an oil burner for an electric one aren't saddled with an extra £500 of government tax on top of that?
No, sir, I will keep my answer, if I may, to the question of fossil fuel, which is where the original question came from. I think the question of marine diesel is an interesting one, and I'm certainly prepared to look at that one. But in terms of the general point regarding targeting the benefits of targeted delivery of funds to the people who are actually about to make a transition of the certain, of the type that we want, I think that is a far, far better use of government funds. And I think 5% GST would would not be a £500 charge on a £5,000 grant.
So I didn't say that, so I said a £10,000. Okay.
Well, I'm not sure that makes a difference, thank you. But Deputy Felton.
Thank you, sir. What consideration, if any, when designing and implementing the scheme, has the Minister and officers given to the learnings from other jurisdictions? I am aware that other similar schemes in other jurisdictions have led to price hikes from suppliers, which have indeed negated the impact of the subsidies and indeed in some instances made conversion to I'm thinking about solar power in Australia, more unaffordable. What measures within this scheme have been put in place to mitigate against the risk of potential price hikes by suppliers that might then negate the purpose of the scheme?
So members will be aware that we piloted this scheme for a period precisely to try and avoid some of the errors that have befell other jurisdictions when they've attempted to do these incentive schemes. A key part of that piloting was to, in order to train people who would be delivering the scheme in a way that would enable them to deliver advice that we felt and knew would be appropriate to their circumstances. That training program has been gone through by a certain number of contractors. We're very hopeful that more will go through it. There is a sense, I suppose, in which the delivery of a new service, increasing demand in an economy that may have bottlenecks in it, may lead to increasing prices. I don't think, however, it will be a consequence of the design of the scheme. We have designed a scheme that has taken the advantage of the experience that has been done elsewhere in the UK, where 2 schemes have failed, essentially, with reports to Parliament which have been very, very critical of them. We have avoided those pitfalls with a scheme that has quality assurance and standards built into it.
Supplemental question.
Thank you, sir. Earlier in his answer, the Minister suggested that the scheme was aimed at people that were on the point or ready to convert their current boilers. Was he admitting perhaps that the scheme is helping people that could already afford to replace their boilers and were indeed already intending to make the conversion? And how will he measure the success of the scheme in encouraging more people to adopt more sustainable ways of heating their home?
So I think what I'm trying to say is that we are trying to encourage people who want to do the right thing but may not be able to afford it, and the purpose of the incentive scheme is to encourage them past that tipping point, if you like. We would like to do the right thing, but we don't quite have the money. And we have 2 schemes in place for that, £5,000 for people who have the ability to match fund, and £10,000 for people who do not have, who are on low incomes, and who therefore would not be expected to meet the full cost. And that includes money that might be used for home insulation, which is an important point in this. To return to the original question, one of the reasons why HVO is a problematic fuel at the moment is it is so much more expensive than conventional fuel. Therefore, anybody making that conversion would expect to pay more for their fuel going forward, and therefore the risk is that they would convert back. Therefore, we need them to put in place insulation measures which would help mitigate the cost of the more expensive fuel. So, I've slightly wandered from the point there, from the Deputy's point, but I hope that at least answers a part of the question.
Final supplementary, Deputy Rob Ward.
Thank you, sir. Because the conversion is a very simple one, is the Minister thought that one of the ways it could be used is to, if you like, put people in a queue for later on, because it would take a long time, as you said, only 1 boiler per day, in order to, 1, make a transitional move to lower our carbon emissions, and 2, to get people to encourage to look further ahead to make that change to electric heating in the long term. So it's just not just an ingredient that could be added to, if you like, speed up our transition, sir.
So we will be keeping very much under review the volume of inquiries that come, and I think a mechanism by which we can provide some guarantees that if there isn't a contractor available immediately, there might be one soon would be a good idea. It's very early days, and we do retain one of the advantages of being a small jurisdiction and having a team of exceptionally committed officers working in this space, is that we can tweak and adapt the scheme as we see problems or issues that arise. And I know that Deputy Journ and officers will certainly be keeping an eye on it, and I look forward to reporting back to the Assembly as the scheme progresses, and indeed as we bring forward further schemes to encourage the journey to decarbonisation in line with the carbon neutral roadmap.
Very much, Minister. That concludes questions to ministers with notice. We now move to questions to ministers without notice. The first question period is for the Minister for Health and Social Services, and Deputy Southern asks the first question.
Thank you, sir. Some time back, we were informed that there was to be an in-depth survey, very detailed, by a set of health economists over how we fund and what costs we face in terms of delivering a decent health service. When asked about this survey, the answer from the Minister was that this was to be scaled back. It was much smaller than what was originally proposed. We've now got a third version, I think, that I just heard of. Are we on plan A, plan B, or plan C in terms of deciding how much we need to spend and how we're going to forward health service in the future?
Thank you, sir. I only have one plan, which is the plan that I'm pursuing with the team, which is to undertake a review of the total expenditure that the island makes on healthcare. And in order to do this work, we have employed a team of health economists to assist us with this, with a view to providing the information as to how we might address some of the challenges associated with funding future healthcare going forward. We are on track, and the outcome of that review will be presented to the Council of Ministers and thereafter to the Assembly.
If I may,
supplemental question, yes.
Supplementary, the question is always, and when are you prepared to do this?
I would be happy to outline a timetable in writing to Assembly members as to when we will complete, but I am anticipating the outcome of that review will be completed by the end of the summer.
Deputy Hull.
Can the Minister confirm what services are to be relocated to the Enid Kenno facilities at Lake Enevé, the date of any relocation, and more importantly, when will the staff, clinicians, patients and islanders be consulted about what is happening and their opinions sought?
Yes, Minister.
Thank you, sir. Some consultants have requested a move to Lake Enevé, and we're still going through the consideration of that. But the areas that we have established as feasible to support the provision of services that will be transferring include the pain management service, the assisted reproductive unit, pre-assessment services, rheumatology, neurology and urology, diabetes and endocrinology, podiatry, retinal screening, the Hearing Resource Centre, the Child Development Centre, the Memory Service, psychology services, the wheelchair workshop and the Fit for Life physiotherapy. I don't actually have the detail of every single date of the moves, but obviously if there is a schedule, I can provide the detail to the Deputy on that basis.
Supplemental question, Deputy?
Yes, thank you, sir. Does the Minister, as the client, not agree that until such time as we have a proper plan and know what services will be at Kensington Place and which at Overdale, and proper consultation has taken place with staff, patients and islanders, that any relocation would seem premature, inappropriate and not the way to treat the public? Thank you.
There has been an enormous amount of work done to try and develop a plan to create the conditions that are necessary to develop hospital facilities both at Kensington Place, the existing hospital site, and also at Overdale. The consultation on those arrangements in terms of the location of the two-site option is well articulated and has been communicated previously, and I don't wish to revisit that. But I think the Deputy refers to the issue about who agrees as to what goes where. And there are a number of groups that are set up, clinical reference groups that are set up as part of the project development to actually discuss and agree with clinicians about the moves and the transfers that need to take place. This, I can say to Assembly members, this is still work in progress, and we're waiting for the outcome of the feasibility review before we can provide any firm plans as to when, how and who goes where.
Deputy Farnham.
Thank you, sir. Is the Minister fully aligned with the process and direction of travel? Is she fully aligned with the Infrastructure Minister on that process and direction of travel of the new health facilities?
As a Council of Ministers, we have agreed our plans to develop alternatives to the decision that was taken by the Assembly, which is to provide healthcare facilities that actually meet the needs of the population within an affordability envelope. And so the work that has been done to date, which has involved the Infrastructure Minister and myself, and has been overseen by the Political Oversight Group, has given us some idea of the way in which we would like to see services provided. Clearly, the work that was done on the 100-day review, which has already been provided to the Assembly members, gave us a steer on that. We will await the outcome of the feasibility reviews to understand the content of what the next stage of that review process will tell us. And then what we do need to do is to align the service strategy with the building development of those healthcare facilities so that we can actually make sure that we have got a proper transition and a proper development programme in place.
Thank you, sir.
Well,
before I use my supplementary up, so I just want to point to clarification. I asked if the Health Minister was aligned with the Infrastructure Minister on the current process. I think she said yes in a roundabout way, but could you just confirm that before I ask my supplementary, please, sir?
Well, I think it's that there is a common policy with the Council of Ministers, I thought was the answer given by the Minister, which must mean that it's common for all of the ministers. I don't think I can allow supplemental to supplemental. Please ask a supplementary question.
Okay, thank you, sir. Are the health staff and the health professionals and the health experts aligned with the process?
I'm pleased that the engagement and the involvement of staff has stepped up since over the last couple of months. There will always be differences of opinion as to how and in what way we provide health services in the island. Everybody's got a view, but at some point we have to reach a consensus, and we've got to come to a point where the driving force behind this is how best we can deliver services that meet the needs of the population in a safe and an equitable way. And all I can say in response to the Deputy's question again is that we have a plan. We are waiting for the outcome of the review process, and then we will determine what the next stage of that is. But it will always attract difference of opinion, and I think we just have to navigate and charter a course that eventually sees facilities being provided for people in ways that actually meet their health needs.
Deputy Barberable.
Thank you, sir.
Can the Minister explain who authorised the advert posted on the Jobs in Jersey website and elsewhere on the 3rd of May, with a closing date of the 30th of May, for the non-executive directors to sit on the proposed health board? And can the Minister explain why was the advert posted some weeks before the States Assembly has had an opportunity to debate the proposition?
Minister.
So the process of the non-executive director recruitment is organised through the Cabinet Office and then through the Appointments Commission, is my understanding. I have no personal involvement in the recruitment of non-executive directors. I can't recall the second part of the Deputy's question.
Why was it placed before the States had had the opportunity
Why was it?
of
I'm sorry, I can't provide an answer. I don't know.
Well, do you have a supplemental question, Deputy?
Thank you, sir. Can the Minister explain why there's been a change from a health board to an interim health board, and explain its associated funding, as the figures demonstrated in the advert and stated in the deferred P19 proposition appear very confusing and misleading?
Thank you, sir. The reason I've withdrawn the proposition was that some of these anomalies have come to my attention, and what I can assure the Deputy about is that those anomalies and differences that she has just highlighted will be corrected in the forthcoming proposition that will be debated on the 13th of June at the next Assembly hearing.
Well, Deputy Scott.
Thank you, sir. What is the situation with the health budget, and does the Minister anticipate any overspend?
The position with the health budget is it's under immense pressure, it's under immense strain, but we are working with Treasury colleagues to try and secure the maximum amount of investment to address the service improvements that are needed. Members will know that we have inherited a legacy position which we are trying to turn around, and as you will know, I have brought in a turnaround team, change team, to help us establish a programme of work that will actually drive some of the efficiency and the productivity through the system. There is a clear difference as to what is invested in the system, how it is being used, and also what we will need, not now, but in the future. And most of the costs of the system, of the budget of the healthcare system, are driven through the need to employ bank and agency and locum costs, which take up a large proportion of the healthcare budget. The colleagues in the SCB and in the service are trying their best to actually reduce the expenditure on locum and agency costs, and the reason for this is imperative so that we get value for money in terms of our workforce supply. We have stepped up our recruitment processes. We are reviewing some of the ways that we deliver care so that we can attract new roles, new responsibilities. But I have to say to Assembly members, I cannot underestimate the cost of what it takes to actually run a health system using locum and agency staff, which are as valuable as mainstream staff but cost a proportionate, high proportion than usual employees. So for us, that is the main concern.
If you could bring your answer to a close, please, Minister, because you've gone significantly over the time.
Sorry. That is the main concern, sir, about the pressure on the budget, which is the workforce.
Well, supplemental question, Deputy Scott.
Thank you, sir. Would the information I have be correct that there was a 6.4 million overspend in the first quarter for 2023 and that 30 million is not accounted for from 2022? And what is the total forecast overspend for this accounting year?
So, based on current assumptions, we're forecasting a 19 to 20 million pound overspend. But we, as I've said, we are working with Treasury colleagues to address that position, and that's all I can say at this moment in time.
Maybe time for a very quick question, Deputy Porre.
Thank you, sir. This question is for the Health Minister. Minister, are you aware that the majority of permit workers in Jersey do not know how the healthcare system works or how to access it, and for that reason are less likely to use it? Due to it, they are also more likely to work when they are unwell, which in turn leads to further health complications.
So I'd like to thank the Deputy for her question, and yes, I am very much aware of the health inequality that may well present for some people in this particular situation. What we have done is we have produced some information for permit workers, which we hope will actually assist them in their understanding as to what they can access and what they will need to provide their own cover for. And I would also offer and extend an invitation to the Deputy that if there are any concerns about access outside of the guidance that we've issued, if she would be happy to let me know, I'll take that up with the service.
I'm afraid that brings the period of time allocated to questions to this Minister to an end. The next Minister to answer questions is the Minister for Infrastructure, Deputy Howell.
Thank you, sir. I wonder if I could please ask the Minister what he was going to say in regard to the facilities at Springfield Gym. Thank you, sir.
So I'm grateful to the Deputy for giving me the chance to answer that question. Just to say to maybe put people's minds at rest that when I visited the gym, the Springfield Gym yesterday evening, the manager put a suggestion to me that there's a covered balcony area of about 1,250 square foot, and it makes perfect sense for that to be covered in and made use of for a gym extension. I think Deputy Ward was concerned about which areas of the gym weren't properly catered for, and the only one that came out last night was the free weights area, which I think the Deputy had mentioned, and that would be the area of extension. So I think if that can be done, it'll probably take a number of months, but if that can be done, there will be a significant expansion of the free weights area, which I think should put everybody's mind at rest. Thank you, sir.
Supplemental, Deputy Howell?
Thank you, sir.
Deputy Coles.
Thank you, sir. Does the Minister think that a 4-month period is adequate to collect enough data on the efficiency of a bus route?
So if I'm not wrong, and perhaps the Deputy can confirm, I think we're talking about the number 20 bus that very temporarily went round Mount Bingham, sir. This only occurred as a result of the desperately unfortunate events at Hodemore, and so the bus was rerouted for a period of 4 months. But I think there was very often nobody using the service on that whole loop, and sometimes just one. And I think a 4-month period under those circumstances was sufficient, because it was never really intended to be a bus route in the first instance. Thank you, sir.
Supplemental question, Deputy Councillor.
Thank you, sir. The Minister may recall we actually had an email exchange regarding this particular route, as I have, as this is a constituency area, and a number of my constituents were very happy and praised that this bus route came into circulation, and it was stopped with no public notice other than inside the timetable produced by Liberty Bus. Would the Minister be open to reviewing this route and maybe giving it more of a trial, maybe 6 months rather than 4 months, especially during the summer months where people are tending to go out more rather than in the winter?
Minister.
the evidence from Liberty Bus doesn't suggest that it is a serious problem. I think it would be disingenuous for me to say that we'd relook at it, because there's a danger if you put on a complete loop on a bus service to pick up either one person or nobody. There'll be calls from all around the island to have a personal bus service for everybody. So I think in the interest of practicality, sir, that is probably unlikely.
Deputy Farnham.
Thank you, sir. Can the Minister please remind the Assembly when we're going to get some meaningful information, some details, sir, about costings and the design of the new health facilities? I know a timetable was set out to States members some time ago, but could you please just provide an update? Thank you.
So there'd be some further information on finance in the strategic outline case, but that's not the case that really sets out the finances. That will be the outline business case, which should be available in the autumn, sir.
Supplemental, yes.
Thank you, sir. I was to understand that the outline business case was due at the end of May, by the end of May. Something was due by the end of the May, sir. Or am I mistaken? Or has the timetable changed? Thank you.
I thought I'd mentioned, sir, that it was the strategic outline case that will be completed by the end of May. It won't be publicly available at the end of May because it has to go through Council of Ministers and through scrutiny, but it will be completed by the end of May as we originally predicted, sir.
Conor Thompson-Blythe.
Thank you, sir. We heard earlier on from the Minister of the Environment the difficulties his department had with regard to staffing, and I'm aware that the Infrastructure Department had similar issues with regard to road engineers. Would the Minister tell members what the status of his staffing in that department is now? Thank you, sir.
So I think earlier this year we had an 18% shortfall, which is too much given the workload that we've got. There's been a recruitment campaign. We have solved some of the problems, but we still do have a deficit. And the sad thing is that, strangely enough, the Transport Department requires people who are particularly trained in various areas, and that there's a shortage of those on the island. So it's a very difficult process indeed.
Supplemental question, Conor Thompson.
Thank you, sir. Will the department be advertising more vigorously and perhaps reviewing the parameters of the role that's being demanded? Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. We're very happy to do that. We're making every effort that we can. So.
Deputy Mezek.
Thank you, sir. The Minister will be aware of some of the concerns that residents of Green Street have with the bus route that goes down there, which is a two-way bus route on what is otherwise a one-way street. And he may be aware of when routes have had to change necessarily because of roadworks going on, including Mount Bingham, which Deputy Coles raised before, that there are other options for how routes can work in that area. Would the Minister consider the issues that are being raised by residents of Mount Bingham and Green Street about those bus routes, and consider whether it would be worth meeting with Liberty Bus to discuss a route system around that area that is more responsive and can help people get about, given that there are a number of elderly people who live at the top of Mount Bingham for whom getting up that hill once being dropped off on a bus causes them great difficulty?
Yes, I think the issue of buses in Green Street has already been raised. It gets raised at the monthly Hoverley PAR meeting, and since we last had that conversation, I've asked the department to take a much closer look at it. Yes, I don't see any reason why we wouldn't include Mount Bingham in those discussions, sir.
Supplemental question. There are no other questions for the Minister for Infrastructure. To absent Saviour.
Beg your pardon, sir. Let's wait for the next Chief Minister, sir.
Conor Thompson-Mon.
Is the Minister able to confirm that the £34 million required to begin the upgrade of the Fowle sewer network be made available, as without this, rezoned fields by the Assembly in St Peter and St Juan will not be able to be developed, losing 120 plus much needed homes? Thank you, sir.
So I'm pleased to be able to say that in recent discussions with the Treasury, we've been promised sufficient money to get the programme well underway, and we're in further discussion as to how we might generate further funds to complete the process. But we have been promised money to commence as soon as possible. That's likely to be at the end of the year when the current team that are working on the sewage disposal plant at Balazan become available to start the works. So the answer is a firm yes.
Supplemental question, Conor? Well, Deputy Luce.
Thank you, sir. And the residents of St Martin at the moment are subjected to a substantial disruption due to roadworks in the area of Gorey Castle and the Castle Green. Could the Minister explain to the Assembly the justification for what appears to be almost a new road appearing in what was two quite productive coaties until quite recently?
So I'm afraid the answer to that is no, I can't explain it, but I'm certainly happy to find out and let him know as soon as I know. Thank you, sir.
Any supplementary to that? Deputy Felton.
Thank you, sir. In one of his previous answers, the Minister referred to the town hopper bus as regularly going around being empty. What measures has he and his department taken to ensure that the town hopper bus is well publicised and that people know that that service is available to them?
So it would surprise me if people in the town who see the bus going around frequently, as I do when I go into town, don't know about it. But I have to confess that I don't know what measures have been taken to advertise it, but as a result of the question, I'll certainly make sure that we look into it. Thank you, sir.
Supplemental question, Deputy Felton.
Thank you, sir, and I would encourage the Minister to undertake that promotional work. To alleviate traffic pressures within St Helier, would the Minister consider both making the hopper bus free for all passengers, as well as potentially instigating a free transit area within St Helier?
So these things are fine in principle, but to the best of my knowledge, the hopper service costs us, I think, about £18,000 a month. I think it caters for 57 people a day at present, and if my maths is right, that works out as something in the order of £10 or £11. I've probably got that terribly wrong, but we just do need to be a little bit careful about the feasibility of it. But it is under review, and that there will be a report at the end of the period of review. There will be a report issued on its performance. So.
Conor St Lawrence.
Thank you, sir. There are a lot of roadworks being undertaken at the moment in St Lawrence on the Grande Route de Saint Laurent, which are having an adverse impact on small local businesses there. And I would like to know the policy of the department in how they manage such roadworks and the small businesses, and whether compensation is available to those businesses who lose out when there is not enough signage to indicate that they remain open and accessible despite the roadworks that are being undertaken.
Minister.
So the business of roadworks seems to irritate everybody every time they appear. It's a thankless task, and I don't think we'll solve it anytime soon. As to whether there's funding available, I would say that there probably isn't. Because once again, we haven't got an endless pot of money, but I would ask the constable and anybody else in any other parish where if there's insufficient signage, that gets pointed out to the department on day one, and I can assure you that I'll make certain that they respond immediately, sir.
Thank you, sir. Supplementary. Yes, that's all very well and good. We can do that. We can advise the department that there is insufficient signage or inadequate signage. However, I have asked the Minister what his department's policy is on ensuring that these small local businesses are not affected by the roadworks that close the roads around them. There should surely be some policy, and I would like to know what it is so that I can suggest improvements if necessary.
So unfortunately, I don't carry a copy of the policy with me, but I'm happy to invite the constable again to meet the department, and we can go through the policy with her in great detail. The sad fact of the matter is, as I've suggested, it's a very difficult business doing roadworks, and you're going to upset whichever area that you're working in at any given point in time. And that's, I'm afraid, just a sad fact of life, sir.
Thank you, sir. I accept the Minister's offer. Please arrange the meeting.
Deputy Tadier.
Would the Minister be happy to liaise with Liberty Bus to make sure that the Avanci card, which offers discounted fares relative to cash fares, and also the free transfers that are available for commuters, are advertised, but including to tourists who come to the island?
So I think it's going to be a very busy few weeks for me. The answer to that is yes, very happy to do that, sir.
Any supplementary? Presumably not.
I mean, the supplementary is, will he do that, I suppose, just to get precise answer?
Not sure how precise I've got to be. Yes, absolutely yes.
Very well, that brings us to the end of the time allocated for questions to this Minister. The remaining question period falls as usual for the Chief Minister, Conrad St Saviour.
Thank you, sir. Following news that the dedicated Jersey Mail plane may be discontinued, will the Chief Minister be holding talks with the UK postal authorities and indeed Jersey Post regarding the continuation of this essential service? Thank you, sir.
I thank the Constable for raising this matter. I spoke with the Economy Minister just this morning, and I believe that he will be engaging with the relevant bodies.
Supplemental.
Thanks, sir. Because it has been suggested that the post can be handled by the sea freight service, but the best will in the world, sometimes the island is disrupted by inclement weather, fog and whatever, and as we are a finance centre, it would be absolutely disastrous to lose this service. Does the Chief Minister not agree? Thanks, sir.
I would agree that it is important and absolutely vital for an island community to have a good postal service and one that meets modern expectations. I am aware that consultation is now taking place with relevant bodies, and particularly the online retail sector. I believe had a meeting last night, and they are discussing their views, and I believe that they were pleasantly content with the position that they arrived to.
Deputy Hull.
Thank you, sir, but I was going to ask the same question.
Conrad St Martin.
Thank you, sir. Following the report in the JEP, would the Chief Minister be able to provide the Assembly with a clear view on the Government's approach to online safety, including the development of relevant legislation for Jersey, given that the UK's online safety bill will not be extended to Jersey? The online safety bill is, however, being extended to Guernsey and the Isle of Man through a permissive extent clause.
I think the Constable will be aware that this online safety bill is a matter for the Minister for Home Affairs, and so she would have the most up-to-date information. I'm aware that we are not keen to have permissive extent clauses extended to Jersey, and we always seek to create our own legislation.
Supplemental question, Conrad?
Thank you, sir. I'm not quite sure whether this, the Chief Minister will be able to answer this, or maybe was Home Affairs. But in light of the announced task force, what engagement has Jersey had so far with the UK government on the cyber flashing offence?
Again, sir, I don't sit on that particular task force. I know it is in good hands, and it is a very serious and important issue that I'm sure the relevant ministers and task force are pursuing.
Deputy Felder.
Thank you, sir. Following correspondence between myself as Chair of the Public Accounts Committee and the Chief Minister as Chair of the State's Employment Board, could she confirm whether or not managers and senior managers working within SIPES are subject to enhanced DBS checks?
So I think, as I laid out in that correspondence, that those people who in the public service who have direct contact with children and young people would have enhanced DBS checks.
Supplemental question?
Is the Chief Minister confident that due to the responsibility of senior managers within SIPES about regulation and the management of children's services and education services, that the relevant checks are being carried out to give the Assembly assurance that the children in our island are being kept safe?
Sir, I think members will have gained from the question, and particularly that it comes from the Public Accounts Committee, that the specific question is rather operational in its nature. Of course, as policy makers and parliamentarians, it is part of our role to seek assurances, and I think that is what has been expressed in my correspondence with the Deputy.
Deputy Rob Ward.
Thank you, sir. Given the postponement of P19 following the Council of Ministers meeting, can I ask the Chief Minister whether she supports P19? Thank you, sir.
Sir, since we came into office, we have, of course, received the Hugo Massey-Taylor report into clinical governance, which identified that this is a live issue and one that affects patient safety. And a board is something that is very commonplace in other health authorities in other places around the world. And it is something that I think is absolutely necessary for us as an island to be able to provide assurance to politicians, but also, most importantly, to the public and to patients, that good clinical governance and oversight is in place.
Supplemental question?
So I assume that's a yes. Can I ask, for a government that it's set a stall of transparency, what were the reasons for the delay? And is it because there are some influential voices within Council of Ministers who don't want to see this board? Thank you, sir.
Sir, I think we're preparing to reissue that report because some discussions are being had about some potential inaccuracies in the report and proposition, which is of course regretted, and we wanted to ensure that all was correct before debating in the Assembly.
Deputy Scott.
Thank you, sir. With respect to the proposed changes to the rules for 11Es, could the Chief Minister please explain the process by which the threshold is being raised, or is being proposed to be raised, and in particular the extent to which the potential competition with places like Guernsey, which have a lower threshold, has been considered in terms of diversion of income, and anything else that she might be doing to ensure that residents who do come over under such scheme are able to contribute the specialist knowledge that they have to island life, rather than have it repelled perhaps by civil servants who are not keen to work in this way.
I thank the Deputy for her question. The Population Skills Group have considered and consulted with a number of people and bodies when considering this change. We have looked at data and comparisons across various jurisdictions, and we acknowledge that where we are setting the limit for this this policy change is higher than other jurisdictions, particularly our neighbouring sister island of Guernsey, may require for schemes that are in place in other places. However, we believe that Jersey offers a fantastic package to those people who we welcome to the island, who take up such an offer as the 21E scheme delivers for people. We offer a safe and a beautiful environment in which to live, an excellent geographic position, communication routes, and many other things. And those people who choose to come to the island and are successful in their applications are often very generous with their time and, of course, with their philanthropic giving when they arrive on our shores.
Yes, a supplemental question, Deborah?
Yes, sir. I don't believe the Chief Minister had quite addressed the last part of my question, which I do accept was quite long. Just in terms of what I may have in terms of anecdotal evidence in terms of government perhaps not working too well with the voluntary contributions of specialised knowledge of high net worth residents here. Has she any plans to improve the liaison between government and private individuals in this way?
Forgive me for missing that part of the question, sir. The Deputy raises an interesting point, but I think there are many members of our community who have interesting perspectives and knowledge to share with political members, and it is something that is under consideration, to wider consideration, that we might look to creating an advisory council to bring some of those people with relevant experience and a genuine desire to support the island on a number of issues, to engage with political members.
Deputy Barbour.
Yes, thank you, sir. It's a follow-on from the question that I'd raised with the Minister earlier on, but I'd like to now direct that to the Chief Minister, if I may. I'm actually concerned about the response from the Health Minister, who alluded to the fact that it was the Cabinet Office who authorised the advert for the NEDs. And that the Health Minister was not aware that the advert had gone out. So my question is to the Chief Minister, can the Chief Minister look into the actions of the Cabinet Office in its publication of the advert, especially when we have not had this debate in this Assembly about a health board, but they're putting out adverts for the NEDs. And the question really is the Cabinet Office actually running things? Thank you.
Well, I beg your pardon, you've asked two questions there. Would the Chief Minister look into a particular thing, or is the Cabinet Office running things? And I suspect the answer to that is going to be, the second one is going to be quite short. But which answer do you want?
So the actions in relation to the advert. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Chief Minister.
So I'd be happy to do so.
Supplemental question, Deputy Ward.
Is the Cabinet Office running things, sir? Thank you.
Sir, of course, officials do run departments, but of course ministers decide and take policy decisions and provide direction and guidance, and that is the way political offices operate, and I would always ensure to make sure that each party is pursuing their own proper roles.
Deputy Coles.
Thank you, sir. I'd first like to thank Deputy Ward, Rob Ward, for stealing my original question, so I've had to edit it slightly. Could the Chief Minister please provide details around the conversations that led to the deferment of P19 2023?
I think there have been a number of conversations and with both officials and politicians. I wouldn't be able to run into those precise details.
Supplemental, Deputy?
Yes, thank you, sir. Would the Chief Minister not agree that it would be more prudent that these kind of conversations happen before the propositions are lodged rather than them being deferred later? And would this not be a function that the Cabinet Office may consider taking?
Of course, it would always be preferable that everything is absolutely correct and all the ducks are aligned before anything happens. But we are operating as best we can under tight timeframes. And as I pointed out, there have been some points that need to be refined prior to debate.
Deputy Tadier.
Thank you. It goes back to the question of a property register and whether her government actually knows and can know who the beneficial owners of property are, and if so, how the government can know that.
Well, at the moment, I think the constables and their parishes actually are the ones who know who owns property, as they receive rates from both occupiers and the ratepayers.
So there is a problem with that, of course, because the rates information may contain the name of a company or a trust, but it doesn't contain the information necessarily of who the ultimate beneficial owner is, and nor does it explain how that information, even if it did exist, would get to the government. So can the Minister clarify again, because she said that a digital register isn't the preferred option, how on earth can government know who the beneficial owners of property are in order to implement the policy of not allowing people who shouldn't be owning property in Jersey to be able to acquire that property?
Well, I'm sure the Deputy will be well aware that we have a registry where directors of companies are registered, and ultimately, if there are, particularly for financial crime purposes, requirements to identify the owners of those, then we have agreements in place where that information is shared. But we have a well-regulated register.
That brings the period of time allocated for questions to the Chief Minister to an end and concludes the question period. We would now move on to public business. In the light of the time that there's approximately 6 minutes before I would normally ask members whether they wish to adjourn. Do we wish to move to public business? Can I raise that question, or do we wish to start after?
Sorry, sir, I was going to propose the adjournment.
Very well. The Assembly stands adjourned then until 2:50.